Presented by Honda. At the Model Clearout event, it's the best time to team up with a Honda you'll love.
Welcome to the Bronx here at Yankee Stadium as the Yankees open up their final homestand of the season. This is where the Blue Jays will spend their weekend. Coming off that sweep of the hands of the Red Sox midweek, hoping to turn their fortunes around here against another team that is headed to the postseason, the New York Yankees. And again, a chance for some of these young players to play in an historic ballpark, although it's not as old as Fenway. This is still in the minds of some new Yankee Stadium, but still a special moment for a lot of young guys like McKinney, who's played here before. Gurriel and Tellez have not. Randall Grichuk has, and Grichuk continues to swing a hot bat. Was on base a couple of times last night and hitting .339 over his last 15 games. And down in the 8th spot tonight is Devin Travis, who is one of the few Blue Jays who's really had some success against Masahiro Tanaka, who when he's on, Buck, he can be awfully tough.
And he's on right now, Dan. Over his last 2 outings, he's got a 14-inning scoreless streak. He's walked just 1 and struck out 16 in those 2 starts. He pitched against the Tigers here on the 1st of September, and out in Seattle, he had a great outing. 3 hits over 8 innings, no runs, and he didn't walk a batter and struck out 10. Masahiro Tanaka has always been tough on the Blue Jays. He's 10-4 for his career against the Jays, and he has a career-high 15 strikeout game against the Blue Jays last September. He's a tough pitcher, and right now he's locating all his pitches very well. Defensively, take a look at the Yankees. It's Gardner, Hicks, and McCutchen in the outfield, but they've got a problem behind home plate. Gary Sanchez, yeah, he can hit a lot, but Sanchez himself has committed 13 pass balls. The Yankees are second only to the Boston Red Sox in pass balls. Boston's been charged with 21. New York has 19. And as you get closer to the playoffs, each of those 90 feet that you give away with a pass ball proved to be very costly.
So ready to go under cloudy skies tonight here in New York. And a former Yankee, albeit briefly, Billy McKinney, leads it off for the Blue Jays. Acquired, of course, from the Yankees along with the Brandon Drury in the J. Happ deal. McKinney hitting .324 overall. And has been a very nice addition to the Blue Jays over the last 6 weeks or so. As he takes a strike over the outside corner to get us underway. McKinney, of course, still with a number of good friends in the Yankees organization. Says he is particularly close with Miguel Andujar, Gleyber Torres, and Aaron Judge. McKinney and Judge were in the same draft year. And McKinney was drafted by Oakland, not by the Yankees. The Yankees were his 3rd organization. As he pops one up. And his buddy Andujar might have a play in foul territory here. He will not. And McKinney's still alive at 0-2.
Now, Billy McKinney did have a great spring with the Yankees. He had 5 home runs in spring training. That earned the right to break with the club on the opening day roster. Then, unfortunately, got hurt in his 2nd big league game this season, crashing into the wall in New York. His buddy, Miguel Andujar, did not break with the team. It didn't come up until Billy McKinney was hurt. So Andujar made his debut against the Blue Jays for the season on April 1st. But it's kind of funny how one guy made it and then the other guy gets called up when Billy McKinney gets hurt.
Tanaka, a very good test for young hitters. He can rise the fastball. He's got a good slider and that great splitter that you so often see in 2-strike counts that he gets a lot of his strikeouts with. He is not overpowering, but he can be surgical sometimes in his effectiveness. And for guys like McKinney, Gurriel, Tellez, this will be a really interesting matchup. There's the splitter. And a swing and a miss and a ball in the dirt. Sanchez down to first to complete the out.
Well, the splitter is as good as it's ever been for the Yankees, according to Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach. It's really been an effective pitch for him lately. He's always had it in his arsenal, but right now he's really throwing it well. This starts out right at the bottom of the zone and then breaks into the dirt, and that's exactly where you want to throw it with 2 strikes. It looks like a fastball coming out of his hand, and hitters have a tendency to say, okay, fastball. They chase it, and it breaks out. You can see the rest of his pitches. He's got a wide assortment, and he won't throw as many fastballs as you might think.
Liner down to 3rd, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hits it sharply, but he was retired on 1 pitch. Tanaka, one of 3 candidates you would think in line to start the wild card game for the Yankees. Luis Severino, if he's on, is considered the ace, but he's been up and down, hasn't pitched as well lately as he did earlier in the year. And of course, he got lit up in the wild card game last year, didn't get out of the 1st inning. And then the other guy who's got to be in the conversation is J. Happ.
Absolutely. Jay Happ is 16-6 between the Blue Jays and the Yankees. Severino was great in the first half, but the manager, Aaron Boone, he's going to make a decision according to what he sees here in the second half and who can win that wild card game. Jay's been terrific. As we know, when he locates his fastball, he can beat anybody.
And he's pitched well for the Yankees. The Yankees right now a game and a half up on Oakland in the wild card race, and of course Aaron Boone and the Yankees would dearly love to play the game here as opposed to finishing the season having to fly all the way out to Oakland, and if they win it then they come back and would play the Red Sox, it looks like, in the division series the way the standings are now. Grichuk takes a fastball at the knees, 2-1. Randall hit a home run off Tanaka back on March the 30th in that season opening series at Rogers Center. One of the 21 home runs he's got on the season.
And the only time Tanaka has pitched against the Blue Jays this season.
Kind of funny with these two teams in the same division that Tanaka's only faced him once all year.
Yeah, you would think he would face him just because they're in the same division, but that hasn't been the case this season. Tanaka, he's interesting. He is now in his 5th season with the Yankees, and you know what? I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for making the transition as effectively as he has.
2-2 popped out of play.
Tanaka for his career is 30 games over 500 with New York. He's 63-33. This is his 130th career start. There are his numbers against the Blue Jays in 16 starts. He actually made his first big league start against the Blue Jays at Rogers Center his first season back in 2014.
And he just missed outside at the knees. The count now full.
First half, second half have been dramatically different for Tanaka, and he's really kept the ball in the ballpark more consistently. As you look at Rowdy Tellez hitting cleanup, Tanaka's had very good location in the second half of this season. In the first half, Tanaka gave up 18 home runs. In the second half, he's only given up 5. And you see the difference in the numbers. The ERA is dramatically reduced since the All-Star break. Opponent's hitting a little bit better, but I think because he's commanded the strike zone so well, that's how he's been able to keep the ball in the ballpark.
29 years of age. 2 down and the bases empty. Another 3-2 pitch on the way to Grichuk. And it's just low, ball 4. Good take on a close pitch there by Grichuk as he draws a 2-out walk. And now Rowdy Tellez will come up and make his Yankee Stadium debut, and hitting in the cleanup spot no less. Justin Smoke and Akendrys Morales are a combined 3 for 38 in their careers against Tanaka. Both of them out of the lineup as a result tonight.
Yeah, a pretty easy decision for John Gibbons when you have an option like a rookie Rowdy Tellez. Say, hey, you know, those two guys don't hit him, so let's give Rowdy a shot. Off to a good start in his career, batting .409.
Morales, Smoke looking on and may be called upon later in the game, but for now it's Tellez who takes a slider for a strike. Tellez with 9 hits and 8 of them for extra bases, 7 doubles and a homer. And we've seen power to right, we've seen power to left center as well. And in fact, as little of a book as the Yankees may have on Tellez, they've got Aaron Hicks, the center fielder, shading him over towards the left center field gap.
Yeah, and you know what? They understand there's a lot of video out there. So his home run Rowdy hit at Rogers Center went to straightaway center. So Hicks is favoring that side of the diamond to the left side of center. When you set up your defense, not only do you set it up to guard against the hitter's power, but you also set it up to take advantage of the ballpark. If Rowdy Tellez hits it from right center to the corner and he hits it well, it's going to go out of the ballpark. So you've got to cover that big gap in center and left center, and that's why Hicks is shaded in that direction.
Yankee Stadium, a good park for hitters down the lines, but favorable for pitchers in the alleys. It's deep to right center and left center. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count, but first to throw to first. Blue Jays are just 4-12 against the Yankees this year. The Yankees have won 9 of the last 10 between the two teams. They're not playing well overall, though, coming off a 4-5 road trip to Oakland, Seattle, and Minnesota, 6-8 in their last 14 games. And it sounds funny, they're 90-56. They could win 100 games this year, yet they're going to be in a wild card game and could conceivably even be on the road in that wild card game. That's how top heavy the league is. Another throw. The only mystery is where it's going to be played. Really, Seattle has fallen off as Oakland got hot. Tampa Bay's actually passed the Mariners, but for all intents and purposes, it's the Yankees and the Athletics. One-two. And a roller for the shortstop, Gregorius, on the right side of second, and that'll be all for the Blue Jays here in the top of the first. Marco Estrada will take the mound for the Blue Jays when we come back. Hit a home run in the 2003 American League Championship Series to send them into the World Series that year. So a little bit of history for him before he became the manager here in the Bronx. And a look at the starting lineup for the Yankees tonight, including Giancarlo Stanton. 4 home runs in his career off Marco Estrada, but mired in a lengthy slump right now. Not slumping is one of the leading Rookie of the Year candidates in the American League, third baseman Miguel Andujar.
Well, this is a tough lineup. I don't care how they're swinging at a particular time, but they've got a lot of big bats in this lineup. A challenge for Marco Estrada, making his 26th start of the season. He's 7-11. It's been a rough season for Marco. He's dealt with assorted injuries. He had a hip issue. He had a back problem, but he needs to finish up strong. His whip is almost 1.5, and that is very unlike Marco's great run he had a couple of years ago.
And he'll start Andrew McCutchen with a strike. McCutchen, the former National League MVP with the Pittsburgh Pirates back in 2013, a 5-time All-Star, and picked up this season by the Yankees from the Giants, in large part, due to the Aaron Judge injury. And Judge was actually just placed back in the active roster today, but he's not ready to hit yet. He's still a few days away from that. He can pinch run, he can go in the field. McCutchen's off to a slow start with the Yankees, but just it's kind of strange to think of him in this way, but at this point of his career, he's kind of a depth insurance policy kind of guy for the Yankees heading into the postseason. Yanks it down the left field line. That's a fair ball. McKinney will retrieve it in the corner, but easily into second base with a double is McCutchen.
Well, that pitch was up about letter high, and McCutchen jumped all over it. That's just his 6th hit. He had 34 at bats since coming to the Yankees. And watch the location they want it down. It's right up about letter high. McCutchen hammers it. He's a veteran hitter, as Dan mentioned, a terrific career in the National League, mostly with the Pirates. But he hits the leadoff double, and that was a high changeup.
So leadoff double, and here is Giancarlo Stanton. He is 4 for his last 41 with 20 strikeouts. And as the guys on the pregame show were talking about, he is a notoriously streaky hitter. After starting off well against the Blue Jays at Rogers Center to begin the season, he went into a long April slump, really came out of it in June, July, got crazy hot. Overall, as you can see, has put up solid numbers, not the kinds of numbers he put up last year, but good numbers. But now, Buck, he's back in a slump again.
Yeah, and it's just the type of swing he has. He hits from a very exaggerated closed stance, and his timing has to be nearly perfect because there's a lot of moving parts in his body. You can see how his hips are closed, his shoulders closed, and when that ball starts jumping around on you, it's really hard to get it slowed down. But when he creates all that movement with that stride and that closed stance, he can go through streaks where he can't even make contact. But when he does make contact, he can do some damage.
It goes. He's had 3 years in his career with a slugging percentage over 600, and 3 others, including the slugging percentage he's got right now, with a slugging percentage under 500. So a wide gap between his good and his not so good as Estrada loses him. And it's first and second, nobody out already.
Take a look at the defense. Billy McKinney's in left, Pilar's in center, Grichuk's in right. Rowdy Tellez making his first start at Yankee Stadium, is batting cleanup and playing first base. And we've talked so much about Rowdy's bat. He's a very good first baseman. He's a big fella, but he moves around very well. And he's got great hands. He's good at digging those low throws out of the dirt. He's got pretty good range and a strong arm. In that regard, he's a lot like Justin Smoke defensively.
Estrada in an early jam, and a big swing and a miss at a first pitch changeup from the center fielder Aaron Hicks, who's hitting .244 with a career high in both home runs and RBIs. Very good on base percentage. He's walked 41 times in his last 48 games. The Yankees can hit some home runs, especially in this ballpark. They got 234 on the season. That leads the majors. It's a dangerous park for a guy like Estrada, who's a fly ball pitcher. And there's a liner in the left center field. That'll get down for a base hit. McKinney slips. McCutchen will make the turn and come home. Everybody will advance. Stanton into third and Hicks into second as the throw came in towards third base.
Yeah, another fundamental mistake by Billy McKinney. Once you fall down, you got to realize that you're not going to be able to get the runner going from first to third, and you got to make sure you keep the batter runner Aaron Hicks from getting to second. But here it's a nice stroke by Hicks, who's swinging the bat very well. He gets an RBI base hit to left field, and that's going to chase home McCutchen with the first run of the game. But here, when McKinney slips, you got to concede third base to Stanton and make sure you keep the double play in order, especially in the first inning.
Yankees threatening to have a big first inning at the expense of Estrada. The Blue Jays a run in, second and third, nobody out. And they face a young guy with a lot of power right now, Miguel Andujar, the third baseman, hitting .299, 23 homers. And he's driven in 16 runs against the Blue Jays this year. Blue Jays will play the infield back, trying to stay out of the big inning as Estrada bounces in a curveball.
We mentioned Andujar. He hit 4 home runs in the spring, and he probably had a better spring than Brandon Drury. But the Yankees were concerned about the defensive aspect of his game, and they went with Drury out of spring training. But it wasn't long before he was called up from the minors.
Drury started experiencing migraines and some dizziness, and eventually they put him on the DL. They called Andujar up, and Andujar hit so well he never lost the job. Took Drury a long time to get back. After he got healthy, the Yankees actually kept him down in the minor leagues for a while, and eventually, of course, he got traded to the Blue Jays. And I think, Buck, the Yankees still have some defensive concerns about him, but they have no concerns about the bat. Popped up down the first baseline. Tellez going back, and he makes the catch in foul territory and then gets the ball back into the plate with a strong throw.
So Tellez goes out into foul ground down the right field line and makes the catch. But in this situation, second and third, nobody out. The first thing you have to think about is getting the ball to the catcher. But watch the hesitation. He looks around and then he decides to throw home. Stanton had broke, but when you catch that ball that far away from your position, you've got to turn and fire to home immediately because you anticipate this guy's going to break from third.
Estrada's got his first out, and now here's Didi Gregorius, the shortstop, who's back off the DL, spent a few weeks on the DL with a heel problem. Another guy with a lot of power. Who doesn't in this lineup? He's got 23 as he sends a little cue shot foul up the third baseline.
Remember his first season when he came here with the Yankees and he was under the shadow of Derek Jeter, and he had a tough first season, but boy, oh boy, not many people now, especially in this ballpark, complaining about Didi Gregorius playing shortstop for the Yankees.
Yeah, his numbers have pretty much gotten better and better. He's become one of the better shortstops in baseball in an era where there are a ton of good ones. Here's a ground ball out to second to Travis. This will get a run home. RBI for Gregorius. Stanton scores. Hicks to third. 2-0 Yankees.
Now go back to the Billy McKinney play when he threw the ball to third base instead of going to second base. The Blue Jays could have possibly gotten out of this inning with just one run. After the Tellez catch down the right field line, that ground ball may have gotten you a double play, and the damage would have been just one run. When you play good teams, man, you can't make mistakes. You can't give them extra opportunities.
2-0 Yankees. Estrada's now allowed 18 runs in the first inning of his 26 starts this year. Here's Gleyber Torres, another rookie with a lot of potential. 23 homers, 70 RBIs. He is playing second base for the Yankees. Took the Yankees a while. They missed the playoffs a few times. They had to get out from under some big contracts, but they really, Brian Cashman rebuilt the farm system. They've got a big payroll, sure, but they don't have the biggest payroll in the game. In fact, the Red Sox are spending about $40 million more than the Yankees are. And the Yankees, with that deep farm system, guys like Andujar and Torres to supplement the veterans that they've got. Runner at third, 2 down. And the 2-1.
Gleyber Torres is just 21 years old, and it was thought that he was ahead of Andujar, but they're right neck and neck now. They both have hit 23 home runs. Andujar has had a more consistent season, but Torres had problems early in the season just kind of getting into the flow of being a major leaguer. But boy, what a nice tandem they have in two young players.
And a base hit into right field will make it 3-0.
Well, what a nice swing by a young player. We mentioned Torres, just 21 years old, but cut his swing down. There was a big hole on the right side. He takes advantage of it. The pitch was up, but watch how he goes up and hits it. He stays up as high as the baseball, got on top of it and strokes it through the right side of the infield. So the Yankees jump out quickly against Estrada and score 3 runs in the bottom of the first.
And now Gary Sanchez, another young player, but a guy who's had a tough year, both at the plate, behind the plate, and staying healthy. It's really been a big step back for Gary Sanchez, who, of course, the last couple of years, his rookie season and then last year, put up huge power numbers, especially for a catcher. Average, though, under 200 this year. Buck talked about the defensive issues that he's had. He's been on the DL, and he's important. They want that bat in the lineup. And he finds a hole. Base hit into left center. That'll move Torres up to second as the beat goes on for the Yankees.
Now Estrada has thrown 22 pitches, and the Yankees now have scored 3 runs on 4 hits, and that ball is off the plate outside, but Sanchez just stays on it. And he's strong enough. He hit it on the end of the bat, but he still gets enough of it to drive it up the middle for a base hit. But again, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but if you make that play, if you're Billy McKinney and keep the double play in order, pop up ground ball, you're out of the inning with just 1 run.
Instead, it's a 3-run game already. It's a meeting on the mound, and it's a little bit of scurrying around out of the Blue Jay bullpen here in the very first inning. As you said, Marco Estrada wants to, finish out this season in the best way possible. He's heading into a free agent year. In all likelihood, this season is the end of his tenure with the Blue Jays. A couple of great years in 2015, 2016. Has not been as healthy the last couple of years. Has not been as effective. And now 35 years of age, as Taylor Guerreri is now up in the bullpen here in the first.
Yeah, both of these teams have a lot of pitchers in their bullpen, so they don't need to wait around. They can go right to their pen early.
The 8th Yankee to come to the plate here in the bottom of the first is Luke Voit, first baseman with a lot of power. They picked him up in a trade midseason from St. Louis. Chasen Shreve, left-handed reliever, went the other way, and Voigt's come in. And as a Yankee, he's got 7 home runs in just 79 at-bats. And he's taken a lot of playing time away from Greg Bird. He's playing most of the time at first base.
Yeah, it was a July 29th trade just before that July deadline, and he came over to add some depth, and they were waiting on Greg Bird. They had given him the opportunity, and they thought he was going to be the next everyday first baseman, but combination of injuries, surgery, ineffectiveness, now they've gone to Voit.
You know, it's funny, you go online to research a guy and you look up Luke Voit, and he's got a beard, and then you see him with the Yankees and the beard's gone because the Yankees have a no facial hair policy. They've had that forever, right?
Yeah, they sure have, and it goes back to Steinbrenner, of course, but I remember it forever, the Yankee pinstripes, and they always, and guys, when they get traded to the Yankees, don't even wait till they get here. Andrew McCutchen had a beard. He shaved it when he heard he was coming to the Yankees. Jason Giambi, remember him when he got traded here. They respect the uniform so much and the tradition that nobody even questions it. Nobody's got to be told, hey man, you got to shave.
3-1. Driven into the alley in left center field for extra bases. Here comes Torres. Here comes Sanchez. 2-run double. And it's already 5-0 for the Yankees.
Well, the Yankees didn't hit much on that 9-game road trip, and they haven't wasted any time breaking out their hitting shoes tonight. 5 runs on 5 hits, and Voit drives in 2 with the double. This is what he's done since he's come to New York. Another pitch that's just right out over the plate, and it's a fastball. Voit hammers it to the power alley in left center. By the time they retrieve it, 2 runs come in. Sanchez scores all the way from first.
And the Yankees piling it on against Marco Estrada right now. John Gibbons still looking on from the dugout. Guerreri continues to throw in the bullpen. The number 9 hitter for the Yankees is Brett Gardner. And he pops up the first pitch that he sees. Luke Maile will make the catch, and finally the inning is over. But not before the Yankees score 5.
Have been officially reinstated from the paternity list. Martin and his partner Elizabeth welcomed a beautiful, healthy baby girl they named Eva, who was born in Tampa, Florida earlier this week. Mom and baby daughter are doing great. Martin told me he wanted to keep most of the details private, but what we can tell you is he is just over the moon about being a first-time father. You could not wipe the smile off his face earlier today in the clubhouse. So we would like to extend our congratulations to Russ and his new family. And Dan, one quick note from the Blue Jays. Right-hander Joe Biagini has been activated from the 10-day DL after dealing with that oblique injury. So plenty of good news to share tonight.
All right, Hazel, thank you. Yes, congratulations to Russell Martin. Been a number of babies born in the Blue Jay family this year. Sam Gaviglio, Justin Smoke, Luke Maley, and I may be missing one or two, and I apologize for that, but a lot of new babies this year. It's 5-0 for the Yankees. Big bottom of the first for the Yankees as Teoscar Hernandez swings through a first pitch fastball now from Masahiro Tanaka to get the top of the second underway. Teoscar is 2 for 6, including a home run in his career against Tanaka. He'll be followed here in the second by Kevin Pillar and Aledmus Diaz.
Well, this is when Tanaka has the cushion just to really exploit the strike zone, and he's throwing so well now. Watch how he works up, down, in, and out with all of his pitches. Even though he's got a 5-run lead, he can really be aggressive and attack with multiple weapons here.
That's the slider right there. So the slider and the splitter can look somewhat similar in their motion, but the slider will break a little bit away from the righty in addition to going down. The splitter will generally go straight down, and he'll try to start it at the knees, and it winds up down in the dirt. And he got him. Second strikeout of the night for Tanaka.
Well, and we talked about Tanaka now with that first inning. He has had 15 straight scoreless innings, and look at the location of that pitch, and it's got late break, and it's right down and away. Perfect pitch from Tanaka. His second strikeout of the ball game.
Now Kevin Pillar, a .286 lifetime hitter against Tanaka. 4 of the 8 hits are doubles. .245, a dozen homers overall. Well, when you're a pitcher and you're back out there in the second inning and they got you a 5 spot on the bottom of the first, especially a guy as experienced and poised as Tanaka, he's going to be a strike machine, I would think, the rest of the way, and try to make the Blue Jays earn it.
But because he has been so consistent with his control, he's not going to throw many pitches over the heart of the plate. Doesn't have to. He's been able to locate all of his pitches. The Yankees had averaged 3.7 runs in 9 games on their road trip, and they get a 5 spot in the bottom of the first tonight. There's that hard splitter, and you could tell the difference in the splitter and the slider with the velocity. The splitter will be 88, 89 miles an hour. The slider will be around 85 to 87 miles an hour. But it's difficult to tell unless you know which pitches he throws.
We talked about David Price a couple of days ago in Boston as being a guy who tries to mess with a hitter by going out, in, out, in. Tanaka's an up, down guy with his stuff mostly.
Yeah, he sure is. And you could see that last pitch was up and in on Pillar, and he chased it. And Kevin did that a lot in the Boston series, chasing that high fastball.
Got a ball up there, and Pillar hits it to fairly deep right field, but just enough room for Andrew McCutchen to make the catch. 2 down.
Now, Tanaka came over here for his first season in 2014, and you can see what he has done in his big league career. The lowest whip over the last 5 seasons in the American League. He is 4th, but it's a virtual who's who of pitching in the American League. Chris Sale, Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, Masahiro Tanaka, David Price. And that whip is an important. I think it's a great barometer of just what kind of pitcher you are, because that tells you how many base runners you're allowing per inning pitched.
Here's Aledmus Diaz at third base again tonight. There's the slider, going to swing and a miss. 0-1. Diaz 254, 17 home runs on the season. And on just about a nightly basis, we're seeing Diaz at third and Gurriel at short. Diaz in his 3rd season in the big leagues, and 17 home runs matches his career high that he hit back in his rookie year with the St. Louis Cardinals in 2016. That was his best season. Last year did not go as well, and this year is somewhere in between for Diaz. Lays off, down and in.
That's the splitter again. You see it's 88 miles an hour with that dramatic late movement, but Diaz didn't chase. A split finger fastball, I think that's important because you want it to look just like the fastball coming out of the pitcher's hand.
Reaching for it, bounces one out to short, up with it to Gregorius, and in time to get him as the Blue Jays go in order. To the bottom of the second, the Yankees up 5-0.
Enter the code MBJ6558 to earn My Blue Jays points just for watching tonight's broadcast. Your entry box can be found on your My Blue Jays homepage, and don't forget your code must be entered by 4 a.m. Dan.
Thank you, Hazel. All Yankees so far, they're up 5-0 going to the bottom of the second. 5 runs on 5 hits in the first off Marco Estrada. As Buck mentioned, an error by, not an actual error in the box score, but a mistake committed by Billy McKinney, throwing to the wrong base, and the inning could have gone a lot differently had he thrown the ball into second and kept the double play in order. But then after that, the Yankees kept piling on with 3 more hits that produced 3 more runs off Estrada.
Well, that's the kind of team the Yankees are. We saw it with Boston. Whenever you give them those extra opportunities, they're going to cash in more often than not.
And Andrew McCutchen, who's in the leadoff spot, will lead off the second for the Yankees, just as he did in the first when he had a double to get it all going. This is always a focal point in spring training for every team, but it kind of feels like fundamentals will be an especially important focus for the Blue Jays next year.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, and teams don't practice as much as they have in the past as far as everyday infield, everyday cutoffs and relays, things like that. But I think you're right. I think we have seen the difference between the Red Sox, the Yankees, and Tampa Bay, how well they execute fundamentally, and the Blue Jays are short in that department.
Leadoff walk to McCutchen. Pete Walker was on the phone again. It looks like activity in the bullpen again. And it's Guerreri up for the second time, so he won't need long if they need him. Giancarlo Stanton walked and scored in the first. Outside, a ball and a strike on Stanton. 33 home runs this year, and of course last year had that monster year for the Marlins. Was acquired in a trade in the offseason. Stanton, the National League MVP a year ago, he hit 59 home runs last year. Pops this one up for Diaz at third. 1 down.
The 2018 Honda CR-V, where style and versatility come together.
Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez, Hazel May in the Bronx. The Yankees up 5-0 on the Blue Jays as they bat here in the bottom of the second. Aaron Hicks rather, had an RBI single his first time up. Interesting to see how the lineup looks when Aaron Judge comes back, which could be in a few days as a hitter. He's on the roster now as that liner to center was caught by Pilar. 2 down, but Aaron Boone generally has had one of Judge or Stanton in the 2 spot, the other one in the cleanup spot. And Aaron Hicks figures kind of in the middle because he's a switch hitter. He can break up all of these right-handed batters, with Miguel Andujar also in the mix. But it's funny, at times they have been an all-or-nothing offense this year. They can hit a ton of home runs, but at times they've gone dry as well. And they're 90 and 56, but as you look at them, you know, you wonder about this, you wonder about that, and of course it's all going to come down to one game against the A's in all likelihood for the winner to advance on to the division series and then likely have to play the Red Sox, who might be on their way to like 110 wins.
There is no team in baseball that wants to have their entire postseason based on one game, and that's what the challenge is when you're a wild card team. I mean, no telling what's going to happen in one game. A couple of years ago, of course, the Blue Jays had that one-game win over the Orioles where they walk-off home run, but you just don't know. You get a hot pitcher who happens to come out throwing nothing but strikes, making great pitches, you're liable to be shut out for 7 or 8 innings.
And the Yankees played in the wild card game against Houston in 2015. They lost it. They played in the wild card game last year against Minnesota. They won it and got all the way to Game 7 of the American League Championship Series a year ago. There's Estrada with a good changeup, and Andujar swings and misses, and we're at the end of 2. 5-0 Yankees.
To town to celebrate Canada's #1 hockey community for 2018, Lucan, Ontario. Enjoy the fun as the Senators challenge the Maple Leafs Tuesday, right here on Sportsnet.
Thank you, Hazel. Getting to that time of year in a hurry. Hockey is upon us. And here in baseball, just a couple of weeks left in the regular season before the playoffs and October take over. 5-0 the Yankees are up on the Blue Jays. Devin Travis will lead off the third against Masahiro Tanaka. It'll be Travis, Luke Maile, and then Billy McKinney. 8-9-1 in the Blue Jay lineup here in the third inning. Down on the farm, as they say, a Blue Jay affiliate buck could win a championship tonight. The New Hampshire Fisher Cats are up 2-0 in the best-of-5 Eastern League final against the Akron Rubber Ducks. And in Game 3 tonight, they're underway in New Hampshire with Markham, Ontario's Jordan Romano on the mound for the Fisher Cats tonight. And Akron and New Hampshire are all tied up at 2 in the third inning.
Yeah, it's been a great season for the AA team. The manager, John Schneider, was the Eastern League Manager of the Year. Kevin Biggio was the league MVP, and they've had 6 All-Stars off that AA team in the Eastern League this year. But it's a great experience for that team to play a whole season and win a championship. And once you get that championship taste in your mouth, it's one that hangs around for a long time. I believe you can build winners just like you can build major league players.
Swing and a miss. Tanaka gets Travis. Well, let's stay with the minor league theme as Baseball America announced its season-ending all-star teams. They picked an all-star team from each level of baseball plus overall all-stars. And a very nice honor for Vladimir Guerrero and Danny Jansen.
Yeah, Danny Jansen was the all-star catcher in the AAA level. Vladimir Guerrero was the third baseman in AA. Travis Bergen, a young pitcher, a relief pitcher, a left-handed pitcher, had a terrific season pitching in relief. He had an opponent's batting average of 195. But there are a lot of good young players coming up, and Danny Jansen had a great season down in AAA, and he's finished up strong here in the major leagues. There are a lot of guys starting to develop. Eric Pardino, the 17-year-old pitcher, was the Appalachian League Pitcher of the Year pitching at Bluefield this year. They had another Pitcher of the Year, Patrick Murphy, in the Florida State League. He pitched at Dunedin. But when you start having all-stars and players of the leagues in your system, you're starting to improve the depth with quality players.
Eric Pardino is from Brazil, so he was signed in the international market, and the numbers were great in 11 starts. This is short season ball. With Bluefield, went 4-3 with a 2.88 ERA, had a 1.99 opponent's batting average, and struck out 64 batters in 50 innings pitched.
Bobby Meacham, you saw him on the bench, one of the minor league managers. He was the AAA manager. When Vladimir Guerrero got to Buffalo, played in AAA, he had more walks and extra base hits than strikeouts in AAA. He also led the minors by 30 points in batting average. So the second straight year, the Blue Jays minor leaguer led the entire minor leagues in hitting. Last year it was Bo Bichette. This year it's Vladdy Guerrero.
Guerrero struck out just 38 times in 95 games in the minors this year as a 19-year-old. 3-2 to Luke Maile.
And you know, the big question is when are the players ready to come to the big leagues? And of course the Yankees have found out that both Andujar and Torres were ready to come this year, and now they're playing on a postseason team. Team that's going to go to the postseason. The second baseman Andujar is 21. The third baseman is 23.
And there's a base hit through the vacated right side for Luke Maile. The Yankees had the shift on with three infielders on the left side of the bag, and Maile finds a hole towards right center.
First base hit for the Blue Jays. You can see the second baseman. He's on the shortstop side of the bag, and he has no chance at this. And Luke Maile took advantage of the shift that time. He gets the first knock for the Blue Jays tonight.
Well, talking to Luke Voigt about the challenge of hitting off a guy like Masahiro Tanaka. Maile aboard with a one-out single, first hit of the night for the Jays, and back to the top of the order for Billy McKinney as the Yankees now put the shift on again, this time with three on the right side of the diamond. Popped him up, and I mean way up. Torres was calling for it all the way, and Andujar just about knocked him sideways trying to make the play on a ball that was clearly the second baseman's ball.
But as windy as it is, you don't buy the infielders converging on it. But finally, Andujar heard Torres at second calling for it, and Torres is right there. And then Andujar right at the end pulls out of the way and didn't make contact with him. And no harm, no foul as Torres made the catch. But you just never know when those high pop-ups, and that was a big one.
Yeah.
That was way up there. And it's kind of breezy here tonight.
So two down now for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Gurriel lined the first pitch he saw from Tanaka, but right at the third baseman Andujar back in the first. There's a slider for a strike, and it's 0-1. Depending on the situation, we're seeing Gurriel hit all over the place in the lineup. First, second, third. These days, generally, he's up near the top of the lineup more often than he was earlier this season as he chases a splitter and now finds himself staring at an 0-2 count.
I just think they want to give Gurriel as many opportunities in the batting order as they can. I think they have pretty much been satisfied with the way he has played at shortstop lately. He's really played with much more confidence And now they're just trying to see how he can best be moved around in the lineup.
And Tanaka gets him. Fourth strikeout of the night for the right-hander. And the Yankees will take that 5-0 lead to the bottom of the third. Place, in quotes, Derek Jeter, who had been here for 2 decades. And Gregorius probably suffered a little bit under the weight of that challenge in his first year in the Bronx in 2015, but he just keeps on getting better.
Well, he sure does. And he came over here and everybody's going, wow, he's no Derek Jeter. Well, now you could argue, well, you know what, he's putting up better numbers than Derek Jeter, especially with the power. And he's only committed 5 errors this season in the field. This is his 121st start, but Didi has gotten comfortable, more confident with each year he has put together here in New York.
He'll lead off the bottom of the third against Marco Estrada. Gregorius with an RBI on a ground ball back in the first inning. You know, this winter is going to be fascinating on a number of fronts. One of them is that both Manny Machado and Bryce Harper are going to be free agents. And whenever there are free agents of that caliber who can probably command that amount of money, you naturally think about the Yankees getting involved in it as Gregorius gets hit by the pitch. But in Bryce Harper's case, I mean, you look at their outfield, and including the DH spot, they've got Stanton, and they've got Hicks, and they've got Gardner, and they've got Judge. So they're pretty full out there. And then you look at Machado and you say, okay, well, third base or shortstop, who knows where he winds up. But at short, they've got Gregorius, who's an awfully good player. At third base, they've got maybe the rookie of the year this year in Andujar. And they could move some people around. They could trade somebody. But I don't know that it's a given that the Yankees are in on these two guys.
No, I agree with you. Would you rather have Andujar in his second year making about $550,000 or having to pay Manny Machado what would it cost to bring him here? I think they're fine with these kids.
Torres pops one at back of second. And Devin Travis is back there to make the catch, one down. You know, you think about how many teams could afford a guy like a Manny Machado or a Bryce Harper. There aren't that many of them. The Dodgers are a team you think of. I don't know that the Red Sox are in on this, given the team they have and the money they've spent. They've been over the luxury tax in recent years. Philadelphia is a team people talk about because, you know, they got rid of everybody, and they've got a young team and a lot of money available. Atlanta is a team that has been mentioned as they continue to build, you know, with a young team that looks like they're headed for the postseason.
Well, I think the thing that's really intriguing about Bryce Harper and Machado is Harper won't turn 26 until the 16th of October. And he's in his 7th big league season now. Another thing that concerns me about Harper, he's never driven in 100 runs. And if you're going to go on the market and bring in a big time free agent, you'd like to think that he's going to be a game changer, a guy that can win games by himself. And I know Harper hit 42 home runs in 2015, and he's been a 6-time All-Star and all that stuff, MVP. But I don't know if I would want to wrap him up for 7 or 8 years at $30 million a year.
He's had a big second half. Really has played well. A lot of talk that maybe once the Nationals kind of fell out of it, would they consider trading Bryce Harper? And there were reports that the Dodgers had claimed him on waivers, but the two teams were not able to work out a deal, so nothing materialized.
See, that's another red flag to me as well.
Maile does not have room and needs a little bit of help. That's the skipper holding him up. John Gibbons making sure that Luke Maile stays right side up.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected Luke to lose his balance once he got to that railing, and they were all kind of standing there. Maile was leaning over the railing, but then he kind of lost his balance and he was headed down into the dugout head first. And then John Gibbons grabs him and he gets some help from Lurie Rivera and DeMarlo Hale. But yeah, that's not what you want to do, is go head first into the bottom of that dugout.
So an assist to the skipper, the old catcher, helping out a current catcher.
Yeah, that could have been ugly.
Yep. But as is often the case in which John Gibbons is involved, it ends with a couple of guys smiling and laughing at one another. Maile none the worse for wear as Estrada strikes out Sanchez, who's saying he got a piece of it, but it is strike three, swing and a miss, 2 down. You were talking about Harper in the second half that he's had for the Nationals.
Yeah, and the red flag for me is the fact that the Nationals fell out of the pennant race, and that's when he came on. I want a guy that's going to be the guy that's leading the team through a pennant race, not the guy that makes up his numbers after they're out of the picture.
It's going to be really interesting to see where those two guys wind up, and if Manny Machado only entertains offers from teams that say, yeah, you can be a shortstop. He's made it well known he'd prefer to play short rather than third. The eye test and every defensive metric you look at suggests he's a far superior third baseman to shortstop.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't understand what his thinking is of insisting on playing shortstop. He has been such a great third baseman, and he moved there out of necessity, no question about it. He was a shortstop in the minor leagues. The Orioles needed a third baseman. They moved him over to third, and when he came up, he was terrific.
Nothing wrong with being Brooks Robinson or Mike Schmidt in your career. I mean, he is phenomenal at third base.
Yeah, and you know, when you talk about third baseman in the major leagues, you talk about Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado. Yeah. And they're in the same class as far as I'm concerned. Not the same case when Machado plays short.
Runner at first, 2 down, 5-0 Yankees in the bottom of the third, and a 3-0 count on Luke Voit. And he gets the green light, pops it foul, out of play. He's a big guy, 27 years of age, a little bit of time in the big leagues with St. Louis last year, and again early this year before the trade. The Yankees have had a good season, but they couldn't have envisioned what's gone on at first base or how Andujar and Torres have turned out, or that they'd have some of the injuries they've had. They still don't have Aroldis Chapman. It's not been a year without bumps, but they've still got a record of 90 and 56.
Yeah, and because they have so much depth, and they've had these kids step up and provide so much offense, and then they went out and got Zach Britton to give them coverage in their bullpen. So now with Chapman out, Britton can step into that role.
There goes the runner, and it is ball 4. Voit is aboard, 2 on with 2 out. Third walk given up by Estrada tonight, who had Taylor Guerreri up behind him in the bullpen in both the first and the second. The Yankees getting all 5 of their runs in the bottom of the first. And a concerned Pete Walker looking on from the Blue Jays dugout. Estrada coming off a good performance against Cleveland his last time out, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs. But by his own admission, it's been a difficult year for him. A 5.32 ERA coming into the game tonight. Here's a guy who's had a lot of success against in their long careers, Brett Gardner, who with a pop-up his first time up tonight is now 7 for 48 against Marco.
Yeah, and Brett just doesn't pick up the ball at all. You can see his body is always moving, and he's not sure what pitch he's getting, whether it's a fastball or changeup. And Estrada will drop an occasional curveball on Brett Gardner, but he's not had a lot of fun facing Marco Estrada.
Got himself a base hit here, and he's got himself an RBI. Gregorius will come in to score. Voit stops at second, and it's 6-0.
Well, you talk about Brett Gardner not having any luck against Estrada, and he stays on a pretty good pitch and picks up an RBI as he drives home Gregorius. Watch the pitch here. Off the plate away, he just stays on it and uses that one-hand stroke to drive in the run. The Yankees, boy, top to bottom, they have balance. They have veteran hitters, and they can do damage, and they have knocked Marco Estrada out of this game.
And a frustrating night to say the least for Marco Estrada. His night will end after 2 2/3, 6 runs in, 2 more men on his responsibilities. He makes his way off the mound, and Taylor Guerreri will come in from the bullpen. Six to nothing lead, bottom of the third. Estrada knocked out after 2 2/3. Leaves a couple of men on. The responsibility now belonging to Estrada in terms of earned runs. Taylor Guerreri will try to make sure that no further damage is done.
Taylor Guerreri making just his 6th appearance since coming up from AAA Buffalo, and he's pitched a total of 5 1/3, and he hasn't given up much. Opponents hitting just 158 against Guerreri, and he's been kind of an interesting guy. He's got an unorthodox delivery for sure, but I think that creates problems for the hitters. Guerreri's 25 years old, originally drafted in the first round by Tampa Bay out of high school in 2011, and he's had some arm problems. He's had Tommy John surgery. Last year he pitched very few games because he was having more issues with that elbow. This year he got a lot of work in at AAA Buffalo. 23 games, 7 starts down in AAA.
Now, by and large, was a starter in the minor leagues until this year, but mostly a reliever this season, and that's the role he finds himself in with the Blue Jays here in September. Andrew McCutchen is coming up for the 3rd time, and it's the 3rd inning. McCutchen doubled and scored in the first, walked in the second. 6 runs, 6 hits for the Yankees. Estrada also walked 3, hit 1. A good natural movement on that fastball from Guerreri. An unusual setup with his right shoulder kind of dipped down towards the ground, his left shoulder pointing up towards the stands behind home plate a little bit. And one of many guys trying to audition for maybe a bullpen spot in the 2019 season, where the Blue Jays will have to do a lot of rebuilding in that bullpen. A lot of faces have changed.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of turnover all over on the ball club, not only in the bullpen, but the rotation. It's a matter of how you're going to put this team together in the off season. There's still a lot of question as to who will be the manager. Will it be John Gibbons? He's under contract for another year.
And a 4-pitch walk to load the bases.
Pete Walker's gotten some first-hand information on some of these pitchers he hasn't seen a lot of. And I know they do some work down in the bullpen prior to the games, and they've had Guerrero throw a few side sessions, see if they can't iron out some things. But command is an issue with him from time to time. As you saw, he walked first batter on 4 pitches.
Giancarlo Stanton with the bases loaded and 2 down. He's walked and popped up. Got 6 home runs against the Blue Jays this year, and as you can see, he's got 6 grand slams in his career. Pokes it the other way. That ball's down for a base hit. 1 run is home. Second runner coming to the plate. Throw cut by Tellez. Throw to third. Not in time. 8-0.
Well, I thought they had a shot at the base runner at home. And I was kind of surprised they sent the runner from second base, Luke Voigt, but the throw is a strong throw from Grichuk. Take a look at this pitch away as Stan just stays on it. He's so strong, he lines it into right field. And the runners are going to come in. The throw is right on line, and you can see Maile was set up to anticipate a play. It was cut off, and that run will be charged to Estrada.
And that'll close the books on Estrada. He's charged with 8 earned runs in 2 2/3 tonight. And the Yankees just keep on coming. Here's Aaron Hicks, 1 for 2, hit an RBI single back in the 5-run bottom of the first. For Stanton, RBIs number 87 and 88 on the season. The Yankees have scored 8 runs tonight without the benefit of a home run here in the early going, which is not their normal MO. A lot of singles and doubles and walks mixed into the 8 runs that they've got tonight.
Guerrero just hasn't had real good control since he's come into this ball game. He's trying to come inside. There's the target from Maile. You can see how badly he missed. And Hicks has to hustle to get out of the way of that inside fastball.
Six of the 8 runs the Yankees have scored tonight have come after 2 were out. 3 of the 5 runs in the first, all 3 runs here in the third. And a chopper for Gurriel, and that'll do it. But the Yankees knock Estrada out of the game, score 3 more times, and now have a commanding 8-0 lead.
TV for $25.99. Watch every out-of-market regular season game, plus get a free subscription to MLB At Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv to take advantage of this limited time offer. Dan.
Well, Hazel, these Blue Jay fans who have made their way from Toronto or wherever they have come from to watch the Jays this weekend in New York are hoping things get a little bit better than they have been so far. 8-0 Yankees through 3. It'll be Grichuk, Tellez, and Hernandez against a very sharp Masahiro Tanaka here in the top of the 4th. And he starts Randal Grichuk with a slider for a strike. The Blue Jays have 1 base hit off Tanaka through the first 3. That was a single by Luke Maile. That was a ground ball through the right side where nobody was because of the shift, and that's how they line it up against Grichuk as well. He swings over the top of a splitter, and it's 0-2. Grichuk is feeling fine. You can see the black eyes that he's got. They are slowly starting to subside after having that collision with the security guard and the stool a few days ago back at Rogers Center. But it's gonna take a while until he's looking like himself again.
I'm amazed that he was able to play the next day after colliding with that stool. He just really got clobbered with that metal stool. He's a tough guy. I think he's really enjoyed his first season here in Toronto. He's become a big part of this team. He played very well on the field. And after a very tough start to his season, he's come on with a strong second half.
And a bouncer to short. Gregorius has it. 1 down.
Hurry in to earn 3 times the Aeroplan miles on everything in store and online. From September 12th to the 15th, only at Home Hardware. Here's how.
We are here in the Bronx, the home of the Yankees, who have a big 8-0 lead in the Blue Jays. Rowdy Tellez is up for the second time. He grounded out his first time up. And he lifts a high fly ball down the right field line. It is headed for the seats and foul. Tellez this year at AAA hit .270, 22 doubles, 13 homers in 112 games with the Bisons. 7 doubles and a home run already in his big league career. He's the 4th player in the live ball era to have each of his first 7 hits go for extra bases.
Because of that great start, he's drawn a lot of attention to himself. So pitchers and catchers are going to say, who's this Tellez kid? We better look at a little video and see if we can come up with a game plan. But he's shown a lot of patience. He has pretty good strike zone awareness. That splitter's been on for Tanaka. You know, Tellez has over 2,000 minor league at bats. He's had a lot of experience in the minor leagues, and he's just 23 years old.
He'll turn 24 during spring training on the 16th of March.
Well, they play him in the shift. You can see Andujar's the only defender on the left side of the infield. The StatCast AI is powered by AWS. Gregorius, Torres, and Voit playing the picket line defense on the right side of the infield.
Check swing, 2 balls, 2 strikes on Tellez. Again, Justin Smoke and Kendrys Morales both out of the lineup tonight. Both of them with not much success at all in their careers against Tanaka. So Tellez is at first. Teoscar Hernandez is DHing. And another grounder to the right side. Up with it, Torres, and a short throw to first. 2 down as we get an update back in the studio with Jamie Campbell. And one of the nice stories for the A's this year is the guy who's on the mound for them tonight, Edwin Jackson, 35-year-old. I think Oakland is his 13th different major league team, which ties an all-time record. He's got an ERA just over 3 in 15 starts for the A's this year. They have been one of the great stories in baseball this season.
You know what, and we've talked about it in the past. They've lost 10 starting pitchers to injuries this season, and now when you look at their rotation, Brett Anderson's in rotation, Edwin Jackson, Trevor Cahill, they've really had to dig down deep, and they're using the opener now. Liam Hendricks has made 3 of those starts pitching out of the bullpen.
Here's a ball hooked fair into the left field corner by Teoscar Hernandez, and he is on his way to second with a 2-out double.
28th double of the season for Teoscar, and it comes with 2 outs. Just the second hit for the Blue Jays this evening, and that splitter just kind of stayed over the inner part of the plate. Didn't have a lot of movement on it, and he's able to hook it down into the corner. Boy, when he is patient enough to swing at strikes, he can do some damage. 29 doubles, 20 homers, and 7 triples.
You know, it's funny. This year was kind of seen as a year, well, let's see what he can do building on what he did last year. And the Blue Jays wanted to get as much of a look at Teoscar Hernandez this year to see what he is and to see what they think he might become as Kevin Pillar steps in. Do you think at this point, 5.5 months into the season, do you think the Blue Jays have more of an idea now about what Teoscar Hernandez might be than they did at the beginning of the year?
No question about it. They have. I mean, he's obviously had some streaks where he swings and misses a lot, but I think he's learning more and more about needing to get good pitches to hit and not chase those borderline pitches. The more he forces pitchers to throw strikes, the more success he's going to have.
Pillar loops one into shallow left center field, and this will be an easy play for Brett Gardner. The Blue Jays leave the Hernandez double aboard.
In the bottom of the 4th for the Yankees, and Billy McKinney told me he's not at all surprised Andujar is having success at the major league level. As Dan mentioned earlier, the two are very good friends. They had lockers next to each other while in the Yankees minor league system. McKinney telling me that Andujar was an all-around great hitter. He just knew how to handle the bat. But the one thing he noticed and admired most about him was that the big moments never got to Andujar. Bottom 9, bases loaded. He was always calm, cool, and collected. Never panicked, McKinney telling me. Always in control, something, Dan, you see in veteran guys and not in a lot of young guys our age.
Yeah, just 23 years of age from the Dominican Republic, and a rookie this year. Only had 7 at-bats for the Yankees last year, but he's over 500 this year, and some big hits for the Yankees. 8-0. They are up, and the Blue Jays going to the bottom of the 4th. Taylor Guerreri is back of the mound for the Blue Jays after taking over for Marco Estrada in the bottom of the 3rd. And it'll be Andujar, Didi Gregorius, and then Gleyber Torres.
I was talking to Reggie Jackson around the batting cage tonight about Andujar, and I asked him what he liked most about Miguel. He said he has so many areas in the strike zone that he can hit the ball hard at. He's able to stay in the strike zone a long time. His barrel is in the zone, and if he gets a pitch inside, he can pull it. If it's away, he can hit it down the right field line. And he said the most important thing about that is he's difficult to defend. If you look at the defense against Andujar right now, it's spread as thin as it can get. everybody's straight away. So there are a lot of holes out there for Andujar to find hits. But you never want to be a guy that's easy to defend. And if you can spray the ball around all over the place, you're going to avoid hitting into those shifts.
Bouncer foul, and the count remains 0-2.
Andujar came up to the Yankees after Billy McKinney was hurt. He made his debut on April 1st, but boy, he has had a great season. And as far as the Rookie of the Year voting goes, I guess you would say Andujar's the favorite, but Ohtani's going to get heavy consideration. Gurriel will get some consideration as well. Joey Wendell has been a big surprise. I think he's caught everybody off guard with how well he has played in multiple positions. But Andujar with his power. And you know what? He's played reasonably well at third. He's committed 15 errors, but I think that is going to be reduced the more comfortable he becomes at third.
Again, the 0-2 from Guerrero, and the curveball is hit weakly toward third, charging Aledmus Diaz, and he'll throw him out one down. Well, you see these two, Gurriel and Diaz, in constant conversation, and when they're out of the field, they're buddies. They're both from Cuba. They're right now anchoring the left side of the infield, and it's a learning process for Diaz at third. Everything is a learning process right now for Gurriel, and you can see them after any play where kind of the two of them come together, that they talk it over after the fact.
Yeah, and the conversation will be, hey, were you going to get to that ball? Could you have gotten to that ball? No, it's better off that you take it, and those types of things are invaluable when you have plays beyond that. Just trying to gather as much information as possible. As you said, it's different for Diaz too. He's a shortstop, so he doesn't know how far to his left he can range and make plays, or how much he has to give Gurriel the opportunity to make those plays.
It's funny, generally the shortstop is kind of considered the unofficial captain of the infield, but that's not really the case. Can't be the case yet with the Blue Jays with this alignment, because Gurriel is so inexperienced, and whether it's Travis at second or Diaz at third or whoever's out there, they've got more experienced players around them.
Yeah, I would think it would be Diaz if you have conversations, and certainly on pop-ups to left side, they will allow Gurriel to take charge. I mean, that's always been the shortstop's priority. But that's one area where the Blue Jays are very deep. Shortstops, second baseman, middle infielders. They've got them at every level in their minor league system.
Blue Jays go into the shift now as the count goes to 1-2, as Diaz moves over really to a shortstop position. Golf to center field and right at Pilar. Gregorius retired for the second out. It's one of those things I think sometimes you take for granted when it happens, and it only really becomes obvious when it doesn't, and that's communication on the field defensively.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process, because as we mentioned in the Boston series, so many teams are playing in shifts that the individual defenders aren't that familiar with where they're standing on the field because of the shifts. But it's one where you have to communicate even during the course of an inning, course of an at-bat.
So, for example, your Blue Jays teams, so a lot of the times Damaso Garcia is at second, Tony Fernandez is at short, and Mullenix or Orge are at third. How good was the communication between those guys?
They didn't have to say a word. They knew exactly how much range the other players had, and when the ball was hit, they knew whether or not they had to go after it or their partner had a shot to make the play. There was communication all the time in between innings, and Jimmy Williams was a big part of that, because he was the third base coach and infield coach.
Kind of like Luis Rivera is with the Blue Jays today. Was Tony Fernandez the leader of that group? I mean, he was a very soft-spoken guy, and he was younger than some of the other guys, but did he take a role as a leader on the infield?
The first guy that was the leader was Alfredo Griffin, and then Tony learned from Alfredo, and Dama was very assertive. He was very confident. He had a lot of ability on the second base side of the bag, but Alfredo was truly the leader on the infield. He was very animated.
And a base hit through the right side. And Torres has his second hit of the night.
both through the right side of the infield. I mean, you look up as a hitter and you say, hey, they don't think I can hit it to right field. And he just stayed back both times, fully intent on hitting the ball to right field. Picked up an RBI in the first inning with a base hit to right. And that ball is an inside-out swing on a pitch that's right out of a play. Look how he keeps his body back. He didn't take a stride, kept his hands inside the baseball, and gets another base hit through the right side of the infield. I just think you're going to see more and more hitters do this as they are getting tired of hitting into the shifts. You hit a ball hard, it's right to a three-man defense on the left side of the infield.
Here's Gary Sanchez. Sanchez has a base hit, and he's also struck out.
We had Dave Winfield on our broadcast up in Toronto when he was in town for the Blue Jays World Series teams. And he said, I'm just surprised it's taken hitters so long to adjust to the shifts. He said, I would have gotten a little tired of hitting into three-man defenses. There's a lot of room on the right side of that infield. And you don't have to hit it hard. We have seen Torres, both of his hits weren't scalded base hits.
It's funny, though, how many different opinions you'll get on that. Some people say if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. Others say, yeah, they should be able to do it. They just haven't done it yet. But for the most part, you still see the shift. You still see people trying to elevate the ball, hit home runs. Whereas teams are saying, you want a base hit the other way? Take a base hit the other way. It'll take 3 hits to get a run if you do that.
Yeah, and that's the big argument. They're saying, well, we can just sit back and get a walk and a home run, and we score 2 runs instead of having to get 3 hits to get a run. But the analytics departments of all these teams have put together the defenses, and they align them according to what a hitter does.
And there's another hit. A ball that doesn't get out of the infield, a ball that, however many years ago you want to say, is a routine ground ball to second. But again, with the shift on, Sanchez has a base hit. Because with the shift, Travis is playing on the other side of the bag.
And now, let's think back to that road trip. They played 9 games on the road trip. The Yankees did. They hit 198. So we have seen a different approach tonight. They now have 9 hits in this ball game, and we have seen 3 hits to the right side of the infield with the shift on. Torres has 2 of them. Sanchez has 1. But the Yankees, they're saying, you know what, we've got to be a better hitting ball club, and they have proven it tonight.
So 2 on with 2 out, and here's Luke Voit. He's already had a 2-run double, and he's walked and scored. You know, the pitchers obviously understand the analytics. They get the shift and the percentages and so forth. But when you make what you think is a good pitch and you get a weak ground ball and it goes for a hit, human nature suggests it's going to be frustrating as heck for a pitcher. Right?
It sure is. Especially when you make a pitch on a big power hitter like Gary Sanchez. You said, oh, there's a ground ball. I'm out of that. Nope, it's a base hit. I think one thing that's interesting, too, is because of the shifts, the walks have gone up.
Justin Schaefer now up in the pen.
I think it's a product of the pitchers become kind of relaxed, thinking, well, I just needed to hit it on the ground on the left side into that shift, and then they lose the strike zone.
They're more straight up here on Voit. And you've kind of come around and you're thinking a little bit on whether or not they should consider putting rules in to legislate the shift, right?
Yeah. You know, there was talk early on about, well, you should have a rule that says you can only have 2 defenders on each side of the infield. And initially I thought, well, that's ridiculous. And now, because the hitters haven't made the adjustments, I think it might not be a bad idea. Another guy that thinks it's probably a pretty good idea is Buck Showalter. And he says not only should you keep the infielders to chew on each side of second base, but you should make everybody play on the dirt. How about that?
Yeah. And ball 4 will load the bases. All of this coming after 2 are out with nobody on.
One more thing about the shift. If you have rangy infielders and you play them in the shift, you're giving away your advantage. Because if you play your rangy infielders straight away, they're going to cover more ground than a team doesn't have the same range on the infield.
Brett Gardner got himself an RBI single his last time up off Marco Estrada. Now he faces Taylor Guerrero with the bases loaded, 2 down. The complaint sometimes you'll hear from pitchers and hitters about the shift, and again, they all understand the math involved, but a hitter will say, the ground ball up the middle has been a base hit my whole life. Now it's not a hit anymore. And the pitcher will say, the weak ground ball to the opposite field's been an out my whole life, and now it's not an out anymore.
Well, and like I said before, I'm kind of surprised the hitters haven't made adjustments because, you know, everybody said, well, you don't understand what it's like hitting against 100-mile-an-hour fastballs all the time. Well, you know what? Maybe if you get a heavier bat, choke up on the bat handle, you don't strike out as much, you could poke the ball through those shifts and get base hits. But again, everything that people think about now is predicated on how do you get paid. And you get paid by hitting home runs and driving in runs. And you don't get penalized by striking out.
Right. If the shift, if the analytics had been more advanced in the shifts and so forth that come in, say, 30 years ago, guys like Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs would have had enormously different careers than they had.
They couldn't have shifted on those guys. And again, in my conversation with Reggie Jackson today, she said, people couldn't have shifted on me. He says, because I could hit the ball to every part of the ballpark.
But I wonder if those guys, those high average singles hitting Hall of Famers, if they would have tried to change their swing because of the way, you know, if baseball were then the way it is now, would Rod Carew have tried to pull the ball and hit the ball out of the ballpark? And would he have been good at that, or would he have become just another guy if he was doing that?
Well, let me think about that for a second, because they would never have played Rod Carew in the shift.
Right.
Because he hit the ball from foul line to foul line, and Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn. So you had to spread your defense out as thin as possible, and you couldn't bunch him in one spot. I mean, Carew literally would walk to home plate and look around the infield and go, well, I can get a hit over there. Mm-hmm. I can get a hit over there at second.
Tony Gwynn the same way.
The same way.
Yeah. But would baseball have valued them as much now if you hit 340 with 3 homers and stole some bases? And I mean, those guys were phenomenal hitters, but I don't know that baseball would have valued those guys now. You don't see guys like that now. Swing and a miss. Guerrero will get Gardner, so the Yankees will load the bases, but will leave them loaded. 8-0 Yankees at the end of 4. Time now for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie, here's Joe, here's Cliff in the Samsung broadcast studio. game, and who will be their starting pitcher? It would appear it will be one of 3 candidates. Luis Severino, tonight's starter Masahiro Tanaka, or former Blue Jay Jay Happ. That 2.70 ERA you see, that's Happ's ERA with the Yankees. 8 starts, 6-0, 2.70, 9 walks, 43 strikeouts in 46 2/3. So if you're Aaron Boone, you got to consider a couple of things, maybe 3 things. One is who's pitching well at the end of the year. 2 is who's available. Did you have to use somebody on that last weekend of the season to win a big game, maybe to secure home field advantage, as this ball is lined into the left field corner and up into the stands on a bounce, and Aledmus Diaz has a ground rule double to begin the 5th inning. And then the third thing also is matchups. If it's Oakland, do they feel maybe a righty matches up against the A's than a lefty, whatever the case may be. But for Jay Happ, he's been great as a Yankee. He's been as good as a Yankee as he was as a Blue Jay, and he certainly is under consideration. And if he doesn't pitch in the wild card game, and then the Yankees win it, he's going to be the Game 1 or Game 2 starter in the division series.
Yeah, and Jay Happ, of course, has fared very well pitching in the AL East. So if they do go up against Boston, he's got no problems with that. The way Tanaka's pitching right now, you could argue that he's the best option for them in a wild card game. But like you mentioned, you know, and here's the question too: how important is it to the Yankees that they have home field advantage? I think it's primary.
I asked the manager that
around
the batting cage today, and Aaron Boone is an uber positive, uber confident guy, and he says here or there, you know, we're in it to win it, that kind of thing. But obviously they finish the regular season on the East Coast. They don't want to have to fly all the way out to Oakland, and then if they were to win, come all the way back. So I think he's going to keep the pedal to the metal pretty good in the last week of the season to try to get home field if he can.
This is the last homestand for the Yankees. They'll play the Blue Jays 2 more games, and then they have the Red Sox for 3, Baltimore for 3. Then they go on the road and play Tampa Bay for 4 games. That's not going to be an easy series against Tampa Bay. And then they finish up at Fenway Park against the Red Sox.
Devin Travis pops it up. Voit coming down in foul territory, 1 down. I would think Kevin Cash and the Rays would relish the opportunity to muck up the Yankees' plans.
Absolutely they would. And you know what, the Yankees, I mean, there's the prospect of playing Tampa Bay in a 4-game series, going to Boston, playing the Red Sox in a 3-game series, and then having to fly out to Oakland to play a wild card game, win that game, and then fly right back to Boston. I don't care who you are. You don't want to play Boston all that many games in a row, because chances are they're going to win no matter how many games you play them.
Luke Maile had a ground ball base hit his first time up. Blue Jays looking to get on the board here in the 5th, trailing 8-0. They've got Diaz at second with 1 down. The interesting thing is generally teams that are headed for the playoffs have clear-cut #1 starters. The Yankees have 3 pretty good options, but they don't have a clear-cut #1 in my mind right now. And the A's don't have a #1. What both teams have is very deep bullpens. And in a 1-game winner-take-all scenario like a wild card game, as we saw with the Yankees in the wild card game last year, I mean, both Aaron Boone and Bob Melvin, if that's the matchup, they will not hesitate at all. The game is played differently right now, and it's a quick hook for a starter who's struggling.
Well, and that man right there got pulled in the 1st inning of starting a wild card game, so you can't wait around. You can't. Well, he'll get it together in the 2nd or 3rd inning. I mean, it might be too late. But if I were to pick a bullpen right now, the way these 2 teams are matched up, I'd pick Oakland over New York.
I agree with you. Aroldis Chapman still on the DL, but the Yankees have got a knee problem. But the Yankees are hoping to get him back soon. They're hoping to have Aaron Judge and Aroldis Chapman back in the next several days, giving them enough time to get fully back up to speed for October.
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge too, because Chapman's had some knee issues and he hasn't been able to pitch. So just like with Chris Sale, I mean, how much is he going to pitch to get ready for the postseason? The same can be said about Aroldis Chapman. But you look at the bullpens, and that number for the Red Sox, that's very deceiving. Right now, they're not pitching that well out of their bullpen. Craig Kimbrell is, but we saw how many different guys they're trying out right now. And then, of course, Cleveland They just now have gotten Andrew Miller back to their bullpen, and they need him to be Andrew Miller.
I know a lot of people say make it a 2 out of 3 instead of a 1-game wild card situation. And there's some merit to that, although it complicates things within the teams that have won their divisions having to wait a long time until they start playing. But there's something about the drama and excitement and tension from the first pitch of a wild card game, of a 1-game situation.
Oh, no question about it.
It's exciting.
You know what? And Bud Selig, he was a genius when he thought of this, to get everybody involved. And look how many teams, especially this year in the National League, are still in the wild card hunt. So you've created an awful lot of drama for a lot of fans in the National League, in that National League wild card race. And let me tell you, there's not a player that says, oh yeah, we're going to go in the wild card game, looking forward to it, because it's do or die.
Full count on Maile. And ball 4. Let's get an update with Jamie. Diamondbacks in a bit of a desperate situation, trying to get back into things either in the National League West or in the wild card race. They enter play tonight 4.5 back of the Rockies in the NL West. The Rockies still getting it done, and Arizona is 4 out of the wild card race, so they're running out of days on the calendar right now.
Interesting. Colorado has never won the division. They've been to the postseason, but they have a 1.5 game lead over the Dodgers. Won 7 of the last 10 games.
Got a big game going on in the National League with playoff implications as well. The Dodgers, who beat the Cardinals last night, up 1-0 in the early going on St. Louis tonight. 2 really good young pitchers, Walker Buehler for the Dodgers and Jack Flaherty for the Cardinals.
Yeah, both of those pitchers have been impressive. Flaherty's a very hard thrower with a good assortment of pitches, and Walker Buehler, he's been talked about for the last couple of years. This very interesting stroll to the mound by Gary Sanchez has looked like he had some sort of thought on his mind about the possibility of changing sides or something like that. But this is a challenge. Baseball has certainly got its own universal language. I mean, here you got a guy from Japan speaking to a Spanish-speaking catcher. Tanaka's got his own interpreter, Shinjo Hori, who is on the bench, and oftentimes when the pitching coach comes out there, Hori will join in the conversation to help translate. There's Shinjo, who's my stage manager in Japan.
That's right.
In the WBC. What an asset he is when you want to get around Tokyo.
Oh, I'm sure. And Tanaka, Sanchez get it sorted out. 2 on with 1 out. Here's Billy McKinney, who is 0 for 2. But it looked like McKinney almost said to himself there, you know what, I don't want to get into that 2-strike count. No, that splitter's coming. If I see something good on the first pitch, I'm going after it.
Yeah, I think you have to have that mindset. I mean, you have to have a very focused strike zone where you want the ball. But if you see anything in that area, you've got to be ready to swing, because he's going to give you that pitch early in the count, in the at bat, but then he's going to go to the edges as he gets deeper and deeper into the at bat.
One and 2.
And you see, he hasn't thrown a strike yet, but he throws so many pitches that look like strikes coming out of his hand. I think Tanaka has a distinct advantage. As a kid playing baseball, he was a catcher. So he understands how the game is played, and he understands how difficult it is to hit. So he has really taken his background as a catcher and put it to good use working as a starting pitcher.
And not a comfortable looking at a bat there for McKinney against Tanaka. 2 down.
He throws all of his pitches from the same angle. They all come out of the same release point, and a lot of them look like the same pitch when you have to make a decision to swing or take. And watch the pitches, all the different moving pitches, and none of them in the strike zone.
They
But
all
they all
look
look
like
like strikes.
At the beginning, they look like it. Tanaka's in a groove. Came into the start tonight with a scoreless streak of 14 consecutive innings, and he's an out away from upping that to 19. This streak that Tanaka's on right now is his second longest scoreless streak of his career. And the first one came earlier this season, 21 1/3 from mid-July into early August. So he is certainly giving his manager Aaron Boone a lot to consider when it comes to who would start a one-game playoff.
Well, you see Tanaka reminding himself about his mechanics right there. Drive straight towards home plate. Don't get too big with your arms flaring out, and that'll keep your delivery intact.
And he jumps out in front of Lourdes Gurriel Jr. 0-2, and you can see these younger hitters for the Blue Jays. You know, it's one thing to get up to the big leagues and somebody's got a big fastball and you want to test yourself against their 97 and all that, but that's not what Tanaka brings. He's again an experienced guy, throws the whole kitchen sink at you, keeps the ball down. This is more a mental battle than a physical battle for these young hitters.
It's all about discipline enough to get a strike. Be patient enough to wait him out, make him throw you a strike.
Crowd groaning, but you can see it's well outside for ball 1. Once he gets you into a 2-strike count, he can just do so many different things.
Yeah, he can throw you a whole boatload of different pitches in different areas of the strike zone. And he doesn't have to throw you a strike.
Diaz out at second, Amalie at first with 2 out. And that's strike 3 call. He gets Gurriel for the second time tonight. 6 strikeouts in all now for Tanaka.
Eaton Center, Rogers Center, gates 1 and 5, and every in-stadium kiosk. For more information, visit jshop.ca or call 1-877-JSHOP. Dan, I'm not sure if that suit jacket is in J-Shop, but it's quite the attention grabber.
It sure is, and the matching tie really takes it to the next level. 8-0 Yankees over the Blue Jays, going to the bottom of the 5th here in the Bronx, and the third pitcher of the night for the Blue Jays is rookie right-hander Justin Schaefer.
Justin Schaefer has appeared in 5 games since he's come up, and he came up in August, was sent back down, and was recalled in September. Schaefer went to the University of Florida, and he has been in the organization now. This is his 5th season. He's 25 years old. He was drafted in the 8th round of the 2014 draft. Last time out, he had a little bit of trouble finding the strike zone.
Top of the order for the Yankees: Andrew McCutchen, Giancarlo Stanton, and Aaron Hicks. And Schaefer finds the strike zone with that first pitch fastball. It's 0-1. McCutchen tonight has doubled and then walked twice. He hits the ball well to deep right center field, and it is gone. Opposite field home run for McCutchen to make it 9-0.
Well, the Yankees, they have deep pockets, as we've talked about, but when they need some depth and they need some insurance, they'll go out and get a quality player like Andrew McCutchen, a former National League MVP. And McCutchen's been on base all 4 times he's come to the plate tonight. He doubled in the first, came around to score the first Yankee run, then he's walked twice, and now he hits an opposite field home run. Boy, that is a beautiful swing on a high fastball. He hits it into the Yankee bullpen in right center.
First home run of the night for the Yankees, the 235th home run for this team on the year that leads the majors. They're on pace to fall just shy of the all-time major league record for home runs in a season, as McCutchen chips in with his 3rd in pinstripes.
Yeah, McCutchen coming out of the box, wasn't sure if it was going to carry over the fence in right field, but it did. And as Dan mentioned, the home run won 235th. Now they are 5 behind the 61 Yankees, who had 240 home runs. Of course, that was the great Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle season. Maris hit 61 and Mantle hit 54. That's what the Yankee fans had on their mind with Stanton and Judge.
Now Stanton gives one a ride, but this one will stay in the yard. .235 easily the American League lead, and again the major league record for home runs in a season, the 1997 Seattle Mariners, who hit 264, led by Ken Griffey Jr. with 56, Jay Buhner with 40, and Paul Sorrento with 31. Edgar Martinez chipped in with 28. Fly ball to left field, and McKinney is there to retire Hicks, 2 down. Ken Griffey that year hit .304 with 56 homers and 147 RBIs. Man, oh man.
They've had some great teams in Seattle, and that's why it's a bit of a surprise they haven't been in the postseason since 2001. And they've had many good teams, but they've had a long drought, and everybody expected this might be the season where they get back to the postseason, but they have fallen off dramatically here in the second half. So much so they're fighting in the clubhouse.
That was a weird one.
Wasn't it?
Yep.
Excuse me, people, would you vacate?
Yes.
We're going to have a barroom brawl here.
That 97 Mariners team not only had Ken Griffey Jr., they also had Alex Rodriguez. We mentioned Edgar Martinez. They had Randy Johnson. I mean, they had phenomenal players.
Yeah, when you think back to some of those great teams the Mariners had over the years and the players that they had, Mark Langston is one of the guys that people overlook a lot, but he was a terrific pitcher. Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner, Junior Griffey, A-Rod.
And that Kingdome was a pretty good hitter's park, the old place they played in.
Boy, it really was. A symmetrical stadium, and you could reach the seats in any part of that ballpark, but you can't take a thing away from the great hitters. And how about Aaron Boone's brother Brett Boone playing so well for the Mariners out there as well? I mean, he had some phenomenal seasons. 141 ribbies in 2001.
Two and two now, the count on Miguel Andujar. Aaron Boone is the middle of 3 Boone boys. Brett is older, had a very good career. Aaron had a very nice career, of course. We talked about the home run he hit here as a member of the Yankees off Tim Wakefield to send them into the World Series. That was extra innings, Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. And then he's got a younger brother, Matt, who played minor league baseball.
And of course, everybody knows who their father was, Bob Boone, but not many people really recognize what a great player their grandfather was. Ray Boone led the American League in RBIs in '55 with 116 RBIs, and he was a 2-time All-Star. What a bloodline.
There's a great picture, and I'm sure it can be found on the internet, of Aaron and Brett, both All-Stars. Aaron, a National League All-Star, Brett, an American League All-Star. I believe the game is in Chicago. I think it's at Comiskey. And Bob is there, and their grandfather, Ray, is there. And the 4 of them are in a picture together with the All-Star game. There's a weak ground ball towards short. Gurriel's going to barehand it. The throw is late and wide, and I think Andujar would have been safe anyways. That ball was just not hit hard at all. That'll go as an infield hit for Miguel Andujar.
Yeah, it was a do-or-die play all the way, and Gurriel did a nice job of grabbing it with a bare hand, but he didn't have much of a chance to throw out Andujar. Look how deep the shortstop is, and once it gets past the pitcher, it's going to be a tough play for anybody. And he throws wide of the mark. Tellez comes off the base, can't flag it down, but Andujar never made a step towards second, so he's safely back at first. There'll not be an error involved.
So a 2-out base hit for Andujar, and here's Didi Gregorius, who was grounded out, driving in a run, hit by a pitch and has scored a run, and then lined out to center field.
You know, if you try to handicap the American League, and let's just focus on the American League for a time, going into the postseason, it's very difficult because some of the pitchers that you count on aren't really pitching the way they have in the past. Severino is one of those. CC Sabathia is in the back end of his career. Corey Kluber hasn't really been lights out lately, but it's difficult to handicap the postseason.
Champs are still the champs until somebody dethrones them, and they're pretty good. Looking like a probable Houston-Cleveland matchup on one side. Of the Red Sox get the winner of the wild card game. National League, of course, all topsy-turvy. Nobody knows who's going to be playing who on that side. 2-2 the count on to Gregorius. Out of play. We talked about that picture of Aaron Boone with his brother, his father, and his grandfather. Here it is at the All-Star game at US Cellular Field in Chicago. Brett's with the Mariners. Aaron is with the Reds, and that's Bob, a terrific catcher. You competed against Bob a lot in your playing days. That's him on the right, and that's Grandpa Ray in the middle between Aaron and Brett. And I can tell you that's one of Aaron Boone's most prized possessions, is a big framed photo right there. Pretty cool to be a 3-generation Major League family. Not many of those. Throw on to first to retire Gregorius. 4-3 on the putout. 9-0 Yankees at the end of 5.
Hurricane Florence for most of the day today. A South Carolina native, Smoke, told me that he lives about a 4-hour drive south of where the hurricane made landfall this morning. His home, thankfully equipped with hurricane shutters, but while it overlooks the water, he told me it also sits high up on a hill. Smoke telling me that he checked the video from the surveillance cameras around his home, and outside of broken tree limbs scattered across the property, not much damage. His family, still in Toronto, originally booked flights to go home Sunday, but because this storm is slow moving, they are now heading back Monday to be on the safe side. Smoke said it's hard to see Myrtle Beach getting pummeled by the storm. It was a special place for him. He spent a lot of time vacationing there as a young boy. Unfortunately, Dan, these storms are part of life when you're living off the coast there in the Carolinas.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best thing, as you said, Hazel, is that his family was in Toronto. It was one less thing, and obviously the biggest thing that he could feel comfortable about. Didn't have to worry about it too much, to know that his wife and mom and kids were all in Toronto. But, you know, you forget sometimes. I mean, Smoke's got that on his mind. Russell Martin, his girlfriend, just had a baby, and, you know, real people with real lives as well as they navigate this long major league season.
And of course, Rowdy Tellez, who's on deck, just lost his mom three weeks ago, and it's you got to just soldier on through all of these things that happen in normal life.
Randall Grichuk, who's hitting in the 3 spot for the Blue Jays tonight, leads off the 6th. Tanaka now 19 consecutive scoreless innings. 5 shutout innings tonight, 3 hits. He's got 6 strikeouts. He's walked a couple. Grichuk has walked and grounded out.
Chris Sale has the longest active scoreless streak in the majors at 29 innings, and he's going to pitch again on Sunday. We're talking about 3 innings for Sale on Sunday, and that's an interesting pitching matchup, of course. They're playing the Mets, and it's going to be Jacob deGrom against Chris Sale on Sunday. Jacob deGrom's got a chance to have a Cy Young season with a losing team, and the Mets are 10 games under 500, but deGrom has been dominant this season.
He could wind up like 9-10 on the season and win the Cy Young.
Yeah.
And deserve it.
A 171 earned run average, and Grichuk's called out.
Number 7 for Tanaka. Here's Jamie. Donaldson settling into his routine with the Indians. He is hitting in the 5th spot in the Indians lineup tonight, as Tellez has a base hit into right field. He is 1 for 3 on the night. So that Indians lineup right now, 1 through 5, is Lindor, Brantley, Ramirez, Encarnacion, and Donaldson.
Yeah, and you see Donaldson playing at third base tonight. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out of this game and whether or not he can play back-to-back games, and that's something that Terry Francona has to find out. One thing we know for sure is that they're not going to move Ramirez back to third base, as Ramirez will continue to play second base no matter if Donaldson plays third or not.
Teoscar Hernandez is 1 for 2. He doubled his last time up. And another notable home run of sorts hit in the majors tonight. Juan Soto hit his 20th home run of the season, which is rare air for a teenager. A 19-year-old just hit his 20th home run of the season.
And that's pretty cool in that game. They're playing Atlanta, and Ronald Acuna Jr. is 2 for 2 in that game, and he's up to 294. Acuna has taken off since they put him in the leadoff spot right after the All-Star break. Did you see the Braves contending this year?
No. I thought Washington would win that division pretty easily.
Going away. Tonight, Max Scherzer against Kevin Gausman in that game. Gausman's been a nice pickup for Atlanta. He's got 4-2. This is his 8th start since the trade, and he's pitched much better in Atlanta than he ever pitched in Baltimore.
Phillies have faded. Looks like Atlanta's pretty much home and cooled out atop the National League East. 0-2 to Hernandez. And Tanaka gets him on 3 pitches, 2 fastballs, and then A breaking ball or a splitter down below the zone, and that's 8 strikeouts now for Tanaka.
Yeah, I had talked to Larry Rothschild, the Yankees pitching coach, about Tanaka, and I says, what's the difference in the second half? He said command of all of his pitches, and he's made some great pitches with all of them. This is a slider that he throws down bottom of the strike zone and breaks out of the strike zone. He has 4 strikeouts in the last 5 plate appearances.
Kevin Pillar's 0 for 2, couple of fly ball outs. I'll tell you, when Tanaka's on, there's not a pitch above the knees unless it's a purpose pitch above the belt. When he's good, he throws so few pitches between the knees and the belt.
Yeah, he just doesn't miss, and it's amazing. He's got that elbow issue. He's got a torn ulnar collateral ligament in his elbow, but he's been able to pitch around it and stay healthy. This is a purpose pitch.
And line to second. That's all for the Blue Jays. They'll leave the Rowdy Tellez base hit aboard as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Sportsnet. It'll be the Mariners and the Angels. We've got the Blue Jays and the Yankees at 4 o'clock, and the Mariners and Angels coming your way later on tomorrow evening.
Speaking of the Angels, there's talk coming out of LA that the Angels want to sign Mike Trout for the rest of his career. Just keep him right there in Anaheim. He got a couple more years on this existing contract.
Think Mike Trout would do that right now?
I don't know. He's obviously, the last contract he signed, 6 years, $145 million. That takes him through the 2020 season. But I think he'd like to play on a good team.
I think he'd like to play in October. He's only done that once, and they got swept. Gleyber Torres leads it off for the Yankees. I mean, he's already made enough money to take away of his current and future family for generations, obviously. And he's got to be sitting here, you know, watching teams that are going to the playoffs and other great players and just envious of their situations. Bouncing ball down to third, up with it Diaz, and he'll retire Torres, 1 down.
The 2018 Civic Type R, like no Honda you've ever seen.
Activity now with the Yankee bullpen. Luis Cessa has started to throw. 6 scoreless innings in the books for Masahiro Tanaka, and evidently that may be all. Got a nice comfortable lead. You always want to save some pitches or an inning and a veteran guy you may need further down the stretch. Tanaka's at 90 pitches through 6. Here's Gary Sanchez. Sanchez is 2 for 3. Yankees got 5 in the first. Off Marco Estrada. Aaron Hicks had an RBI single. Big play. Billy McKinney throwing to third instead of second. Didn't keep the double play in order. An out later, a ground ball might have ended the inning. Instead, it produced a run, just created the second out. And then Torres with an RBI single, and a batter later, Luke Voigt with a 2-run double. 5-0 Yankees. They got 3 more in the third. Giancarlo Stanton had a 2-run single. And then Andrew McCutchen homered off Justin Schaefer in the bottom of the 5th. Schaefer back out for his second inning of work. Inside, 3 balls and a strike on Sanchez. You know, the Sanchez defensive issues go back really to when he came up to the big leagues. And remember, his manager before Aaron Boone was Joe Girardi, very good catcher in his day. And this is something that has been front and center for the Yankees over the last couple of years, as that one is off the glove of Maile for ball 4. The pass balls at times, not always, but at times, a perceived lack of effort going after a ball after it gets away from him. And Buck, as you know better than just about anybody, boy, especially in a playoff game, one thing a manager wants to know he's got for sure is a catcher back there who can handle that part of the game.
When you look at the history of the playoffs and you go back and look at those rosters, there's always a rock solid catcher behind the plate. And you talk about Pat Borders in the World Series years with the Blue Jays. Russell Martin, how many playoff series has he been in? But you know that that catcher back there is going to have good hands, call a good game, be able to throw out some runners, and not have pass balls in tight games. And you play a lot of tight games in the postseason. You just can't afford to give up those extra bases.
Because it gets in the head of the pitcher a little bit too, right? If he doesn't have ultimate confidence in the catcher back there.
Well, I don't know if you saw it. I'm sure you did. The Oakland game where Severino threw to Sanchez in the first inning. He had 2 or 3 balls get away from him. They scored a couple of runs on pass ball, and Severino was very frustrated. Then you become defensive as a pitcher. You say, well, I can't throw my best breaking ball because if it's in the dirt, it's going to get by him. And that's the last thing you want to be thinking of as a pitcher. But I thought it's interesting. The Red Sox have 21 pass balls, but they got a knuckleballer on their staff. And the Yankees are second in the majors with 19 pass balls. And I'll give you this. They've got some tough guys to catch. Chapman down in the bullpen. They've got Betances in the bullpen. He throws hard. Severino's got nasty stuff.
Joe Biagini is back from an oblique injury, and it looks like he will be next man up for the Blue Jays tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes, the count on Voigt with a runner at first and 1 out. And a soft liner to short, caught by Gurriel, 2 down. You know, and it's a September game for a team that's out of the race and a lopsided score. But for Justin Schaefer, this is huge. This is a chance to show people, hey, keep me in mind when it comes to spring training next year.
Oh, for sure. Every opportunity you get in these September games is something you can build on, and you want to get the experience of pitching in these ballparks. Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium. Blue Jays will go from here to Baltimore and then play the AL East and finish up in Tampa Bay. So it's a good experience for these youngsters.
Brett Gardner hits it sharply, but a righty to Gurriel. He'll win the race to the bag at second to force Sanchez, and that's all for the Yankees. 9-0 at the end of 6. his scoreless streak to 20 innings with 6 scoreless innings against the Blue Jays tonight.
Well, the Yankees gave him an early lead. He was up 5-0 as he went to the mound for the second inning, and he took it from there and breezed. 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. And when you really think about it, the couple of doubles he gave up a double to Aledmus Diaz in the 5th, a double to Teoscar in the 4th, and not much more than that. So now it's over the Yankees bullpen. This is Luis Cessa making his 12th appearance of the season. And the Yankees, they've got a deep bullpen like everybody in September, so they have many options down there in their pen.
Cessa will come on to face Aledmus Diaz, Devin Travis, and Luke Maile, the 7, 8, 9 hitters for the Blue Jays. Diaz had a double his last time up. He's 1 for 2. He's got 1 of the 4 hits for the Jays tonight.
This is the 8th stint for Luis Cessa this season. It's gone up and down 8 different times. And that's the situation now with options and a 10-day disabled list. And you can manipulate your bullpen and basically have an 18, 19-man bullpen.
And in simple terms, until you have a certain amount of service time in the big leagues, you still have an option or options remaining. And an option lasts a year, so you can get called up, sent down 8 times like Cessa did, and that's one option. It's an annual thing. From a Blue Jay perspective, we've seen Tim Meza go up and down many times this year. Ryan Tepera went through it a couple of years ago many times, and it's within the rules, but it's how every team, and you'll hear general managers now say things like, we want optionable guys. We want guys with options. It allows you, as Buck said, and you can have an 8-man bullpen, but it's really kind of like having an 11-man bullpen. A guy goes out there and goes 2 2/3. He can't pitch for a few days. You option him down for 10 days and bring up somebody else.
Yeah, it's really rough on the players. And it really becomes a problem for pitchers because when you go from the major leagues to the minor leagues, it's a different baseball. And pitchers, especially that throw multiple pitches, will have trouble making the adjustment from a Major League Baseball to a minor league baseball and back and forth. Mesa's handled it very well, and he's throwing the ball well right now. This is the best he's ever thrown in his young career. And we saw he and Jose Fernandez in Boston, and boy, they looked like they could dominate, and they did in their outings most recently, each of them throwing an inning in the 3rd and didn't give up anything.
Hot shot down to 3rd. Nice play by Andujar to retire Diaz.
Well, this was a concern coming out of spring training, whether or not Andujar could play defensively at 3rd. He's committed 15 errors, but this is his 121st start, and right here he makes a nice play. Takes a hit away from Aledmus Diaz, his 3rd base counterpart, and throws across the diamond, no problem at all. 3rd base is all about instincts and reaction, and he went to his left, dove for it, gloved it, and then gets to his feet quickly. Watch how quickly he gets the ball, gets to his feet, and fires across the diamond.
As Devin Travis steps in, I wanted to update something we talked about a little bit earlier. Juan Soto of the Nationals hitting his 20th home run of the season and becoming just the 3rd teenager ever to hit 20 or more home runs in a season. The only other 2, Tony Conigliaro, who is a 19-year-old, hit 24 for the Red Sox back in 1964, and Bryce Harper hit 22 as a 19-year-old for the Washington Nationals back in 2012. One and one on Travis, who's 0 for 2 in the night, a strikeout and a pop-up. Driven to right field, taking to McCutchen back, jumping, and it's over his head and off the wall. And Travis is on his way to second base with a double.
I think Travis surprised McCutchen with his power to right field. Not having seen a lot of Devin Travis, McCutchen kind of drifted on this ball and it carried over his head. Devin's got great power to the opposite field. We know that, but I think McCutchen got surprised how well this ball carried. He kind of drifts back, and then the ball is over his head. He leaps for it, but he can't make the catch. You don't see a guy much. You don't really have an idea just how that ball's going to come off his bat, and I think McCutchen got fooled on that one.
So for the Blue Jays, their 5th hit, their 3rd double of the night, still looking for their 1st run of the night. Here's Luke Maile, who's had a base hit, and he's also walked. Guessing we'll probably see Danny Jansen back in there catching tomorrow afternoon. The Yankees will have CC Sabathia on the mound, and maybe Reese McGuire gets the Sunday start as John Gibbons continues to rotate the catchers around.
Yeah, I think John has done a nice job of looking ahead and trying to see where these younger players are best suited to play. You might not see Rowdy Tellez facing CC Sabathia tomorrow, as CC is the master of off-speed pitches and changeups. I would think Reese McGuire will get a start on Sunday against Lance Lynn, who's a right-hander who throws a lot of fastballs. Thomas Pannone will be the starter in that game for the Blue Jays. Tomorrow will be Sean Reed Foley against CC Sabathia.
A little bit high, 2-1 on Maile. Mentioned Russell Martin is back with the team, but he had been told before he left for the birth of his daughter not to expect a whole lot of playing time the rest of the way. The Blue Jays want to see obviously a lot of Diaz at third, see how that's going, and rotate the young catchers in there. And I think going forward, and this is not just because of the drop pop-up last night, but you wonder how much playing time Yangervis Solarte gets the rest of the season. Now, he did start each of the last 2 games, and I got to believe he's going to find himself in there at some times. But again, is he a little bit lower on the current priority list for the Blue Jays to see than some of the other guys? Maile on base for the 3rd time tonight. The odd guy out right now, hasn't played a whole lot, is Richard Urania. He's been spotted in there every now and again, but you know, again, as a younger player and a guy they can control for a while, you know, where does he factor in this month and maybe going forward?
Urania's the youngest of all these kids. He's just 22, and I think he's made some strides this season with his work habits, the way he gets into his routine before the game, and I think he's really kind of stepped up the ladder on the depth chart in a lot of people's minds.
Billy McKinney's 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts tonight against his former team. First and second, 1 out for the Blue Jays here in the 7th, down 9-0. Yankees got 5 in the bottom of the 1st and really haven't been threatened much since. And a bouncing ball to first to Gregorius for 1, and that's all. He'll throw behind the runner at third, but diving back in is Travis as McKinney bounces into a fielder's choice, 2 down.
McVoy made a pretty nice throw to second to get that lead runner, and that's a tough play for a right-handed throwing first baseman, but he threw a strike to second, and watch out. Easily he gets rid of this ball and throws it right on the money to Gregorius. He looked at first and then very late decided to go to third base. Nobody did that play better than Robbie Alomar.
Yep.
I mean, he would get that throw at second base and never hesitate. He'd throw before the guy got to third base, and the guy take 1 step around third, and he's out.
The 2 on 2 out for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And Gurriel's had a tough night at the plate tonight. He did not enjoy his at-bats with Tanaka. 0 for 3. A couple of strikeouts. Did line out hard the other time. But he's been chasing some balls out of the strike zone tonight and has found himself 0-1, 0-2 on a regular basis tonight. And the Blue Jays can get in these ruts with the current roster where they still at times have a lot of free swingers. Guys who chase balls out of the zone and don't make the pitchers come to them, help them out a little bit. That's a better job there taking that pitch. 2 balls and a strike.
The Blue Jays scored just 5 runs in Boston in 3 games, and the veteran teams, they're exploiting these hitters. They're expanding the strike zone.
And there for a strike, 2-2. Been pretty consistent from Gurriel. When he doesn't chase, he's really good. When he does chase, makes it easier on the pitcher. Not that that makes him much different from others, but it's really noticeable with him. Down and away, full count.
He's been much better lately at laying off those pitches. You remember early in the season, he was swinging at everything. Anything he thought he could reach, he'd swing at.
Runner from first will be on the move, and a swing and a miss. Gurriel strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. 7th inning stretch in the Bronx, 9-0 Yankees. Presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. And it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. 9-0. The Yankees lead the Blue Jays as we go to the bottom of the 7th, and back off the DL and into the ballgame is the big right-hander Joe Biagini.
Biagini was on the DL with an oblique strain. He threw in at Boston and really threw the ball well. He's obviously healthy, ready to go again. This will be his first appearance since the 31st of August when he was in Miami pitching against the Marlins. He had an inning of work. After that, he felt something on his side, and they put him on the DL, so this is his first work since.
Meanwhile, down on the farm, it is a final. It is official. The Blue Jays AA affiliate, the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, They are the champions of the Eastern League. They defeated Akron 8-5 to sweep the best of 5. Jordan Romano out of Markham, Ontario was the starter tonight. Travis Bergen finished it up. Kevin Biggio hit a home run tonight. John Birdie drove in a couple of runs. Harold Ramirez, who had a great year at AA, an outfielder in the Blue Jays system, drove in a couple of runs. So congratulations to John Schneider, the manager, and all the Fisher Cats on really what from the beginning right through the season was a great year at the AA level.
They had a great fan base there in New Hampshire, and once again tonight 6,541 fans. Congratulations to that entire organization. Boy, you'd like to put that championship banner on your logo, and now they can do that. John Birdie, he was a nice player for him. He's not a prospect by any means, he's just a journeyman minor leaguer, but he's been a big part of this season. Bo Bichette, Harold Ramirez, Patrick Cantwell, another one of the catching prospects, had a pretty good season there.
Another guy to keep an eye on is a young infielder the Blue Jays got in the Steve Pearce deal with the Red Sox, Santiago Espinal, who started off at Dunedin, finished up the year at New Hampshire. He did some nice things, played a lot of shortstop for the Fisher Cats. And a lot of the guys who finished the year at AA will probably start next year at AAA. Among them, you'd think Bo Bichette and Kevin Biggio, although who knows how it goes.
Yeah, and obviously they'll be invited into camp for the first time. You're going to see them in spring training camp. But there's some players coming, that's for sure. It's encouraging, and that's a good start too. By winning a AA championship, that's really quite an accomplishment for an organization.
3-2 to Andrew McCutchen, and a base hit up the middle. And McCutchen has been on base 5 times tonight. Let's get an update with Jamie Campbell. And the Cubs also getting news today that Pedro Strop, who had kind of been their interim closer with former Blue Jay Brandon Morrow on the DL, Strop is going to be out for the rest of the regular season with a strained hamstring. So now they get a little bit thinner in the bullpen, and you wonder about how effective Strop would be, assuming he can get back for the postseason.
Yeah, injuries this time of the season. They say, well, 10 days will be fine, but then you got to get yourself back to pitching shape. Throw a few bullpen sessions before you're ready to go.
Giancarlo Stanton 1 for 3 with a walk, had a 2-run single in the 3rd, and hits a potential double play ball to short, to second one, and on to first. The Blue Jays will turn it.
Hurry in to earn 3 times the Aeroplan miles on everything in store and online. From September 12th to the 15th, only at Home Hardware. Here's how.
Bottom of the 7th here in New York. More specifically, we of course are in the Bronx, the home of the Yankees. They're up 9-0 on the Blue Jays. 2 down and the base is empty, and here's Aaron Hicks. With the Strop injury, by the way, Joe Maddon, the manager of the Cubs, was asked who he will call upon to finish games, and he said he's got 3 veterans in mind to split the role if need be: Justin Wilson, Steve Cishek, and former Blue Jay Jesse Chavez, who has done a really nice job since coming over in a trade at the end of July.
He has really pitched well for the Cubs, and you know, they just added him. He's a veteran, and of course he's been around a long time, but certainly not one of those guys you think about closing out games. But he's pitched so well for Chicago that he's going to get some consideration.
Red Sox are getting roughed up tonight by the Mets. It's 8-0 for the Mets. Noah Syndergaard is back for the Mets and pitching a terrific game.
Kind of had a bullpen game tonight with Boston. William Cuevas started, went 2 innings, and Robbie Scott, Brian Johnson, and Tyler Thornburg for the Red Sox. Thomas Pannone will start on Sunday, sitting next to Aaron Sanchez. Aaron coming off a very good outing his last time out against the Red Sox.
I would imagine Pannone from Rhode Island will have some family here.
Yeah, I saw his family in Boston and asked him if they're going to be in New York. He said, yep, we're following the team right down to New York. Thomas pitched the last time the Yankees were here at Yankee Stadium, pitched in relief, and at that time he had a lot of family and friends here for his first opportunity to play at Yankee Stadium. A lot of class being held with the Blue Jays this last month of the season. Veterans, and I tell you what, they've been great with these kids. The veterans all anxious to pass along their experience, no matter what they're talking about. It could be baseball, it could be life off the field, it could be how you get around in the big league cities, different things. But to a man, they've all been terrific, sharing their experiences, trying to get these youngsters up to speed.
Two young catchers there, Danny Jansen, Reese McGuire. 3-2 now to Aaron Hicks. With 36 guys on the roster right now, you kind of don't have a choice, whether it's on the bus, in the dugout, in the clubhouse. It's tight quarters these days.
But you know what? It's a good time to be on the road. If you're a young player, you get to see all these great ballparks in the major leagues, and then you can visit with teammates. The Blue Jays didn't hit today because they arrived so late into town last night.
And ball 4. Well, as has been the case for the Blue Jays against the Red Sox this year, it's been one-sided with the Yankees as well. The Jays are 4-12 on the season against the Yankees, but they've lost 9 of their last 10.
6 of their last 7 right here in this ballpark, and they just haven't had much luck against New York. They really can't match up man for man when you look at the two teams, and the experience level, especially in the starting staff right now, as this staff is constructed. Of course, Jay Happ started out the season pitching for the Blue Jays. Now he's in the Yankee dugout.
The Blue Jays will not see Happ this weekend. He is due to start against the Red Sox early next week. 6-0 with a 2.70 ERA in 8 starts for the Yankees, and a free agent at the end of the year. That is a foul ball.
In talking with Larry Rothschild about Jay Happ, I said, you know, he probably fits in very nicely over here. He goes, man, what a professional he is. He comes to work every day. He has a set of routines that he goes through to get prepared for his daily work. And when he's got that fastball command, he can beat anybody. And he understands now who he is as a pitcher, and I think that served him very well over the last couple of seasons. 16 wins this year. He's probably got 2 starts, maybe 3 outside.
No balls and 2 strikes. The count on to Miguel Andujar, who's 1 for 4, had an infield hit his last time up. Biagini pops him up. Pilar in shallow center field is there to make the grab, and that's all, as the Yankees will leave a man on, and we're at the end of 7 here in the Bronx.
the action in first inning with a double, and then Aaron Hicks hits an RBI single, and the throw goes to third. That set up this RBI for Didi Gregorius, and then right through the right side, it was Gleyber Torres with an RBI single, and how about a 2-run double for Luke Voigt as the Yankees jumped on Marco Estrada for 5 runs on 5 hits, and they were off and running tonight for that 5-run first inning.
And the big ovation you hear is Aaron Judge is in the outfield now for the Yankees, just activated off the DL today. And as if he has to try to make friends and fans, he's doing it out in right field. A chip fracture in his right wrist suffered when he was hit by a pitch by Jacob Junis of the Royals on July 26th. Brett Gardner has moved from left to center for the Yankees. And Judge is not able to hit yet, but they activated him just maybe to get him an inning or two in the outfield. He's available to pinch run if they were ever to do that. They're hoping he's back in maybe 4 or 5 days in terms of being able to swing the bat.
Well, they have obviously missed his presence in their lineup, and they can put him and Stanton in 2 different spots in the order, and they've got a terrific threat no matter where they hit. Andrew McCutchen, who started in right field, moves over to left field now. Judge, you can bet he is happy to be back out on the field.
And Sessa will strike out Grichuk for the first out here in the 8th.
Well, Aaron Judge, since the moment he came to the big league, has always been very gracious with the fans. He doesn't waste any time. He walks right over and hands it to a youngster. And look at the joy on that young lady's face as she gets a souvenir from none other than Aaron Judge. I tell you, folks, we get a chance to see him every single day, and there aren't many players in any professional sport that are as accommodating as Aaron Judge.
And the noise you still may be able to hear in the background as the fans out on the right field bleachers still cheering, and Judge turned around and acknowledged them. There's the judge's chambers out there. Rowdy Tellez is the batter. He had a base hit his last time up. 1 for 3 on the night. 1 of 5 hits the Blue Jays have. Ground ball down to first. Voigt will underhand it to Sessa, covering for the second out.
Well, you talk about Aaron Judge and his importance to this ball club. Of course, he had a terrific season last year, but look at the Yankees record with Aaron Judge, almost 30 games over 500. Without him, just 5 over 500. And look at, he's trying to suppress a smile. I mean, he's absolutely thrilled to be back on the field. And you can see all the fans acknowledging his return to the lineup. And what a great sign that is for New York to have him back in the lineup.
Getting healthier at the right time. They got Gregorius back. They got Sanchez back. They got Sabathia back. Getting Judge back now, and hoping to have him back on a full-time basis in a few days, and hoping to have Aroldis Chapman back in the next few days as well. Quickly 0-2 on Teoscar Hernandez. Outside, a ball and 2 strikes. He keeps looking over to Gardner, looking back to the fans and the bleachers behind him. And Hernandez strikes out. Good inning for Sessa. It is still 9-0 Yankees. Going to the bottom of the 8th. Time now for an update. Blue Jays Central with Jamie, Joe, and Cliff.
Presented by Honda. At the Model Clearout event, the real victory lap is the drive home.
Bottom of the 8th inning, and all Yankees really from the outset. They got 5 in the first. They're up 9-0 right now here in the Bronx. And the 5th pitcher of the night for the Blue Jays, big tall fella they picked up in the Roberto Osuna deal, 6'7" right-hander David Paulino.
Paulino will make his 3rd appearance since coming up from the minor leagues. He actually signed with the Tigers as an amateur free agent. They were traded. He would then be traded to Houston. And as Dan mentioned, he was picked up in that July 30th trade this summer. So he gets a chance to pitch an inning here. Joe Biagini had 1 inning of work, but the game got away from the Blue Jays early in that ball game tonight. 5 runs in the 1st inning. Jonathan Davis comes in to take over in center field for Kevin Pillar.
And Didi Gregorius will lead off the bottom of the 8th. Didi's 0 for 3, also hit by a pitch, has scored a run and driven in a run tonight. 9 runs, 12 hits, no errors for the Yankees. No runs, 5 hits, and no errors for the Blue Jays. Paulino, a guy who in his time with the Astros the last couple of years had a total of 9 major league appearances, 7 of them starts. He has worked in relief thus far, obviously in just a short period of time as a member of the Blue Jays. He's done both in the minor leagues, but has been more of a starter than a reliever. But it'll be interesting to see how the Blue Jays view him going forward.
Yeah, I think they just want to get a look at him and let him pitch for a while and then decide what they're going to do. But he doesn't really throw as hard as you might think. But then again, he's been dealing with injuries, and I don't think his arm strength is up to 100% just yet. I expect we will see more velocity next time we see him down in spring training.
Driven to right field and gone. Number 24 for Gregorius makes it 10-0.
Oftentimes you talk a lot about veteran hitters not real comfortable against young pitchers. That's not been the case tonight for the Yankees. Justin Schaefer gave up a home run to the first batter he faced tonight in the 5th inning, a home run to Andrew McCutchen. Now Paulino comes in and gives up a home run to the first batter he faces, Didi Gregorius. Gregorius, as Dan mentioned, number 24 on the season. This is his 80th RBI of the season. Check that, 81. He had one earlier in the 1st inning. 81 ribbies for the Yankee shortstop.
This is Tyler Wade now pinch hitting for Gleyber Torres. Yankees, like the Blue Jays, carrying a lot of extra bodies here in September. High strike, and it's 0-2. That'll get out of play. Tomorrow afternoon, the Blue Jays will send Sean Reed Foley to the mound here at Yankee Stadium against CC Sabathia. Another opportunity for Foley to try to build on to what he's learned about himself in his first 4 big league starts. He's had a couple of good ones and a couple of not so good ones, but he'll get a good test here against this team in this ballpark tomorrow. And that's strike 3 called.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see Sean Reed Foley pitch against the Yankees. He had a chance to watch this lineup tonight, and I think he's starting to understand what it's going to take for him to be successful. We saw him dominate the Miami Marlins' 10 strikeout performance, and he pitched fairly well against the Indians early in that ballgame, but kind of got away from him.
And of course, his second big league start was here against the Yankees, so he's seen them, they've seen him, but a chance to try to learn from some mistakes and continue to move forward. Here's Gary Sanchez. The Blue Jays at the moment are going with a 6-man rotation. With Thomas Pannone scheduled to start on Sunday, but John Gibbons has said a couple of times if they're going to slow somebody down, it probably is Sean Reed-Foley. They just want to keep an eye on his innings and not overdo it. So whether they keep him a little bit short tomorrow or whether he is shut down before the end of the season remains to be seen. Fastball fouled back, 2-1.
Yeah, that's the one thing you want to keep an eye on with young pitchers is how many innings overall has he thrown. And Reed-Foley has thrown 21 innings here, but he had 85 innings in AAA Buffalo, 44 in the third in New Hampshire. So he is closing up on a career high in innings pitched.
2-2. Line to left field and down for a fair ball. And Sanchez on his way to second with a double. That's his 3rd hit of the night.
All right, it just shows you how strong Gary Sanchez is because he got that ball down and in and just was able to muscle it all the way down into the left field corner. Look at that pitch. It's off the plate inside, and not only does he get to it, but he keeps it fair down the left field line. Or Sanchez, his 16th double of the season, goes along with 16 home runs he's hit this year.
And he'll be taken out of the game as one of their extra catchers, Kyle Higashioka, will come on as a pinch runner. And the batter now is Luke Voigt, a 2-run double, a couple of walks, and a line out for a guy who continues to swing the bat very well since coming over from the Cardinals. Good breaking ball there, and Voigt comes up empty.
Yeah, it was a late breaking ball, slider that really didn't look like it was going to break, and then right at the end it broke sharply away from Voigt.
First pitch just after 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Blue Jay Central comes your way at 3:30 Eastern time. And then a 1 o'clock start, 12:30 Blue Jay Central on Sunday afternoon to wrap up the series before the Jays head down to Baltimore. And a check swing roller to short. Here comes Gurriel, and he bobbles and cannot make a play.
Be another error charge to Gurriel, as I think he got distracted by the base runner that was running in front of him. He may have had momentary thoughts about taking a shot at the runner going to third, but this ball is a check swing tapper and right there, and just in the transfer he didn't come up with it cleanly, but he had a chance to make the play and throw the runner out of first base. But in second thought, you didn't think that that runner had anything to do with it. He just bobbled it when he went in to make the transfer.
So first and third, one out after the error, and the batter is Brett Gardner, who's 1 for 4, hit an RBI single in the third. Changeup for a strike. Longest serving member of the Yankees, drafted in 2005, made his major league debut in 2008. And a guy who, when he first came up, a lot of people thought, yeah, you know, 4th outfielder, pinch runner, nice, you know, nice, helpful ball player. He's had a Much bigger career than that. He's had a really nice career.
He's had a very good career, and he is valuable because he can play left field, play center field in a jam. He led the American League in stolen bases in 2011. He's won a Gold Glove. He's been an All-Star. He's got a nice career. This is his 11th season with the Yankees.
And it feels like over the years, especially in this ballpark, he's made about 100 catches against Blue Jay hitters, just racing back and jumping up at the left field fence.
Yeah, he plays that very well in left field, and it's a big outfield, so he utilizes his speed very well to get the most out of his talents out there in left field. But you're right, it seems like he's caught a bunch of them, doesn't it?
And if you ask Aaron Boone, you know, who's great in the clubhouse, who runs the team, who keeps everybody in check, who's a gamer, any kind of those questions, he points at Gardner right away.
Yeah. He's just one of those guys. He's always got that kind of scowl on his face. You don't know whether he's mad or just trying to intimidate everybody, but he's a baseball player, and that's the ultimate compliment.
Left center field, a play for Davis. And he'll make the catch. Tagging at third. The throw will go to second because the runner from first, Voit, had raced around second, as if he thought there were 2 outs. The run will count at the plate as Higashioka came in to score before Voit got doubled off. But that fly ball double play will end the bottom of the 8th. It's 11-0 Yankees. But a mistake made by Voit. He's just rounding second. Davis got it into the infield, and Voit is easily doubled off. The other Chris Davis? Because for years we'd always say, well, you're not that Chris Davis, the other Chris Davis.
The other Chris Davis, but this is the other Chris Davis now.
Kyle Higashioka stays in the game behind the plate after running for Gary Sanchez. Jonathan Davis will lead it off against Luis Sessa. More defensive changes for the Yankees as Tyler Wade stays in the game at second base. And Ronald Torreyes enters the game at third base. And it's quickly 0-2 on Davis, who picked up his first big league hit earlier this week in Boston with a base hit into right field. He's 1 for 5 as a big leaguer.
Got his first big league hit off David Price. Great throw for a young man, and everybody on the bench, and especially all the September call-ups, are really pulling for Jonathan Davis to get his first big league hit, get that knock out of the way.
And a swing and a miss. Sessa will get him one down. Now for a preview of what's coming up on Sportsnet Central, here are Eric and Ivanka. All right, Eric, thank you. Boy, last I saw, as I was kind of checking every now and again, Shapo was down 2-0. Came back and won it in 5 in Davis Cup action. How about that?
That's a great comeback, and obviously a good way to start that Davis Cup qualifier.
Here's Richard Urania coming on as a pinch hitter for Aledmus Diaz. And he pokes a base hit into left field.
I tell you what, he has made some dramatic strides this season, not only here in the big leagues, but what he did in the minor leagues. And I think he has played his way back into the picture. There for a while, he was kind of a forgotten man, but especially here in the big leagues, he's been swinging the bat very well with a lot of confidence, and he's played much better in the field. Richard broke a rib right out of spring training, and that really slowed down his development this season.
Here's Reese McGuire. And he bounces one foul. McGuire is pinch hitting for Devin Travis. So again, John Gibbons continues to try to let the younger players get their feet wet whenever the opportunity presents itself. And not that you ever want to be down 11-0, but that presents an opportunity. So Urania gets an at bat. McGuire, who figures to start at some point over the weekend, probably Sunday, he gets an at bat tonight. One. And a pop-up for Gregorius at short. And that's out number 2. Got the second game of the series for you. Just at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Blue Jays Central at 3:30. And one of the topics of conversation on Blue Jays Central will be the T12 tournament, which is taking place this week at Rogers Center, bringing together kind of the best 15 to 18-year-olds across the country. 8 different teams representing various parts of the nation. A lot of them either draft eligible or maybe looking to secure a U.S. scholarship. I had a chance to sit down and spend some time and interview 3 of those players a couple of weeks ago and talk to them about what they're hoping to get out of the tournament. Pretty exciting times for those guys.
It sure is, and T12 has helped a lot of young players further their baseball careers, whether it's in college or get a chance to sign professionally, and they've done a great job with that. Robbie Alomar actually took that down to Puerto Rico this past summer and introduced it to those young Puerto Rican players.
Luke Maile takes a strike, 2-1. The Blue Jays are down to their final out here. They are down 11-0 in the opening game of this series. The Yankees looking to make sure that Oakland can't get any closer to them, regardless of what happens for the A's tonight. Oakland is taking on the Rays. Yankees trying to stay a game and a half up on the A's for home field in the American League wild card race for top spot as Maile loops one into left field, a base hit. Up to second. On the play goes Urania.
Luke's been on base 4 times, couple of singles, couple of walks. A good job making the most out of his opportunity to play.
And Higashioka to the mound for a conversation with Sessa. By the way, Oakland is leading Tampa Bay. They just scored a run at the top of the 10th. And the Rays now coming up at the bottom of the 10th. Oakland leading Tampa Bay 2-1. Billy McKinney, who's been mumbling to himself a little bit, has not been happy with the way his at-bats have gone tonight. 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts, looking to try to finish off the night on a positive note. The Rays, by the way, have used 9 pitchers in that game, that 10-inning game. From the opener and then right into the bullpen, and away she goes.
Ryan Yarbrough pitched in that game, and he's generally one of those guys that would come in and give you 3 or 4 innings, maybe even more, but tonight wasn't the case.
Gave him 2 innings tonight. Diego Castillo, who was the opener, gave him 2 innings, and nobody else went more than 1. But you can't blame him. It's worked for him. There's no question it has helped him this year. It's not for everybody. It's not something that every team is going to do, but it's helped the Rays this year, given the injuries they had in the rotation. This, by the way, in one of the quirkier rules in baseball, would be a save for Luis Cessa if he gets 1 more out. One of the 3 things you have to do in order to get a save is 3 innings of effective relief regardless of the score. And he came on for Tanaka in the 7th inning. It's either 1 inning with a 3-run lead, entering the game with the tying run on base, at bat, or on deck, or 3 innings of effective relief.
Well, and in this game, your relief pitcher should be able to close it out. You come into the ball game with a big lead like this, and you should be able to just finish it.
Down the left field line, it is slicing out of play. And it's 2-2 now on McKinney, with the Blue Jays down to their final strike. There's a big crowd. It looked like in excess of 40,000 here, but the margin and the length of the game have thinned out the group considerably. Tanaka, terrific. 6 scoreless tonight, as McKinney fouls it off to stay alive.
Yeah, Tanaka's had quite a second half to his season, and as the Yankees try to sort out their rotation and get it set up for the postseason, he's certainly going to be top of mind for Aaron Boone and Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach.
It's Josh Bard, the bench coach, to the left of your screen, to the right of Boone. 2-2. The count remains on to McKinney. Full count. .51 pitches now for Cessa, and there's somebody up in the Yankee bullpen just in case. Runners will be on the move, and it's a bouncing ball that stays fair, and that's the ball game. The Yankees beat up on the Blue Jays. They get 5 in the first and cruise to an 11-0 win to take the first game of this series, and they've now won 10 of their last 11 against the Blue Jays this season.
Yeah, and they had a rough road trip, and they really broke out quickly. They got 5 runs on 5 hits in the first inning, and total they scored 11 runs on 14 hits, and this is the kind of offense that Aaron Boone thought they had, but they had a rough 9-game road trip.
So again, the final for the Bronx, the Yankees 11 and the Blue Jays nothing. Time now for Sportsnet Central. Once again, back to the studio with Eric and Ivanka.